Chapter 4955. Now that Lu Ziyu was holding him back, Lin Yi's move could be put to great use. Judging from how it had been able to strike Zhang Zili half to death, he believed that even if it was Chong Mingue, a late-stage mountain opening expert, he would be able to give him a good beating. The wild sand tornado whistled continuously, and it was impossible for those outside to know what was going on inside. Putting aside the fact that they could not see clearly with their naked eyes, even divine senses could not enter. In reality, even if they did, it would not be a good thing. They might even suffer a backlash. After a long while, a soaring sword, Qi, suddenly slashed the wild sand tornado into two. Then, Lu Ziyu, who was dressed in white, was sent flying while coughing up a mouthful of blood. A silver, flexible sword had appeared in her hands at some point in time. Seeing this, Lin Yi panicked. However, he then saw that Chong Mingue had also been injured in the distance. There was a huge wound on his chest that was so deep that his bones could be seen. Blood flowed incessantly, and it was a shocking sight. It seemed that he had been injured by the soaring sword Qi just now. Looks like I've really underestimated you. I've never seen a woman be able to do this. You, Lu Ziyu, are the first, Chong Mingue said coldly. Lu Ziyu was not only powerful to the point that he had a whole new level of respect for her. What made him even more speechless was that this woman was even more domineering and unyielding than him when she attacked. Was she really a woman? That's just because you're inexperienced. Lu Ziyu let out a cold laugh in disapproval. Although she was already very strong, and there were very few other female cultivators who could be a match for her, it did not mean that there were none. For example, West Island's Island Lord Ning Shangling, whose true strength far surpassed hers. Is that so? Chong Mingue clenched his fist non-committally, pursing his lips and saying, "You can only be stubborn for a while. I've already broken the 9 Palaces sand formation, so it's time for you to die. Go in peace." As his words landed, a crescent-shaped wind blade suddenly appeared in Chong Mingue's hand. At first glance, it seemed no different from the move he had used earlier. However, when this wind blade appeared, Lu Ziyu and Lin Yi, who had stayed in the distance, instantly widened their eyes. Pung! A deep wound suddenly appeared on Lu Ziyu's body, and he was sent flying several hundred feet away. His face was filled with disbelief. His opponent's wind blade had actually reached him in an instant. By the side, Lin Yi felt his scalp go numb. Although the speed of the wind blades was indeed extremely fast, and with his strength, even with the jade pendant as a warning, it would be very difficult for him to completely avoid them. With Lu Ziyu's strength, she should not have ended up in such a sorry state. No matter what, she was still a mid-stage mountain opening expert, and according to Lin Yi's judgment, she should be a top-notch existence amongst those of the same level. Otherwise, it would be impossible for her to contend with Chong Mingue for so long with just a 9-palace sand formation. But the problem was that this wind blade did not have any flight trajectory at all. It had just been flung out from Chong Mingue's hand, and in the next instant, it had already appeared on Lu Ziyu's body. How was he supposed to dodge it? Such a technique seemed to have surpassed the speed of space. The last time Lin Yi had seen such a divine technique was when he had received the inheritance from the giant electric eel. He had seen a human swordsman's sword Qi arrive in such an instant. Although judging from the aura alone, the late-stage mountain opening Chong Mingue was far inferior to that human swordsman. After all, that was an existence who could exchange blows with the giant electric eel. The profoundness of their techniques were exactly the same. It could be seen that Chong Mingue definitely did not have an undeserved reputation, and was indeed not to be underestimated. How is it? The feeling of being scratched by my wind blade doesn't feel good, right? Chong Mingue grinned complacently, using this to distract his opponent. At the same time, his other hand was hidden in his sleeve, secretly accumulating power. Noiselessly, another wind blade shot out in an instant. Pung! This wind blade directly slashed across Lu Ziyu's throat, and her head fell to the ground. In an instant, everything in the world suddenly came to a standstill. Lin Yi's eyes were about to pop out of their sockets, and he bellowed in grief and indignation. Aunt Lu. Humph. No matter how strong she is, she's still just a woman. She's nothing much. Chong Mingue laughed complacently. However, before he could laugh out loud, Lu Ziyu's corpse suddenly turned into a pile of yellow sand after falling to the ground. It was a yellow sand clone. Not only did this turn of events stun Chong Mingue, even Lin, he could not react for a moment. He was not far from Lu Ziyu's position, but even he had not sensed when Lu Ziyu had changed into a yellow sand clone. The technique itself was not very shocking, but to be able to use it to such a flawless degree, Lu Ziyu could be said to be the first person Lin he had ever seen. Pooh! Lu Ziyu suddenly appeared behind Chong Mingue, and at the same time, her sword pierced through his chest. Chong Mingue's expression immediately became more and more shocked. He stared blankly at the bloody blade that had pierced through his chest, his face filled with disbelief. Lin Yi, too, felt that it was inconceivable. Lu Ziyu had given others the impression that she was very open and unrestrained before, but from the moment she silently created the yellow sand clones to the moment she silently appeared behind Chong Mingue, her entire fighting style had completely changed. She was no longer as forceful and domineering as before, but more like an assassin who took an unconventional path. It's too early for you to say stupid words like that. Lu Ziyu's breathing was slightly heavy. The previous set of movements could be said to be as smooth as flowing water, although it was not as amazing as the opponent's instantaneous wind blades. To be able to do it so flawlessly, especially to deceive someone like Chong Mingue, the amount of physical strength exhausted was practically an astronomical figure. Moreover, the first wind blade had left behind a bone-deep wound. To be able to pierce through Chong Mingue's chest with a single strike was already the result of Lu Ziyu giving it her all. Earlier, even with the help of the Nine Palaces sand formation, she had still been suppressed by her opponent. Now that she was fighting for her life, this was Lu Ziyu's true strength. Is that so? Chong Mingue did not collapse after being struck by this sword. Instead, his aura instantly became even more explosive and powerful. Gusts of wind that could be seen by the naked eye were continuously emitted from his body, and then they quickly wrapped around Lu Ziyu, who was behind him. These gusts of wind were like invisible iron chains, tightly binding Lu Ziyu's entire body and suspending her in midair. Lu Ziyu's face immediately flushed red. Right now, not only was she unable to move, the key point was that one of the gusts of wind had strangled her throat, and she was completely suffocated. The situation had reversed in the blink of an eye. Although Lu Ziyu's flexible sword was still stuck in Chong Mingue's body, with the heaven-defying vitality of a late-stage mountain-splitting giant, this sword would at most injure him, and it was impossible for it to kill him. On the contrary, Lu Ziyu was currently in imminent danger. She was not only suffocating from being strangled. What was even more dangerous was that any random wind blade from Chong Mingue would be able to take her life. She no longer had any strength to resist. Chapter 4956. But before Chong Mingue could act, Lin Yi suddenly roared, "Lightning burial!" As he spoke, a massive pillar of lightning descended from the sky, instantly striking Chong Mingue's head. As a late-stage mountain opening expert, Chong Mingue had no chance to react at all. The speed of lightning was the limit of the natural world. To a certain extent, it was the same as the wind blades he had just unleashed. Others could not dodge his wind blades, so he naturally could not dodge Lin Yi's lightning burial. As the lightning burial entered his body, Chong Mingue's entire body convulsed violently from the electricity. The layers of wind entangling Lu Ziyu lost control, allowing Lu Ziyu to regain his freedom and a chance to breathe. "I finally made it in time." Lin Yi watched this scene with lingering fear and let out a long breath. This time, the power of the lightning burial had reached the limit of what he could control. It was even stronger than when he had used it against Zhang Zili last time. If not for this, he suspected that it would not have any effect on Chong Mingue at all. Unlike last time, when Zhuang Yifan had dispelled it, This lightning burial lasted for several breaths of time. The blinding light from the lightning illuminated the surrounding several kilometers as if it was daytime. Seeing Chong Minggue convulsing within the massive pillar of lightning, Lin Yi and Lu Ziyu looked at each other with lingering fear. There should be no problem now, right? However, before the two of them could relax, Chong Minggue suddenly let out a hysterical roar from within the lightning burial. Fierce winds suddenly rose within a radius of several dozen kilometers, whistling towards Chong Minggue from all directions. Under the incomparably fierce winds, the giant pillar of lightning was actually sliced into pieces, and the lightning burial was forcibly disintegrated into nothingness. What a troublesome guy! Lin Yi's heart beat wildly. This lightning burial was the limit of what he could do, but it had still been forcefully disintegrated by someone like this. Were late-stage mountain opening magnates all this freakish? In reality, Lin Yi had never thought that he would be able to kill Chong Minggue with just a single lightning burial. However, he wanted to at least leave enough damage to Chong Minggue. Who would have thought that Chong Minggue would be able to disintegrate his attack? Although Zhuang Yifan had dealt with the Thunder Burial much more easily than Chong Minggue, he was still an Earth Creation late-stage master. Lin Yi wouldn't be surprised no matter what he did. However, Chong Minggue was able to do as well. This was a huge blow to him. In the end, he was still too weak. You have to be careful. This guy is already completely infuriated, and he might vent his anger on you, Lu Ziyu reminded in a deep voice. Yes, Lin Yi nodded. Even if Lu Ziyu was injured, he was still a late-stage mountain opening expert. He wouldn't be taken care of so easily, and the lightning burial, just now, was the main cause of Chong Minggue's anger. Lin Yi guessed that if he was in Chong Minggue's shoes, he would most likely vent his anger on him. On this side, Lin Yi and Lu Ziyu acted as if they were facing a great enemy. On the other side, Chong Minggue, who had suffered a loss, didn't go berserk like they had expected. Instead, he whistled and suddenly rose into the air. Immediately, a huge shadow suddenly appeared under his feet. It was his flying mount, ghost-eyed golden eagle. Seeing this, Lin Yi and Lu Ziyu couldn't help but be stunned. Could it be that this guy was preparing a fight in the air? A late-stage mountain opening expert actually used this kind of method. He was too shameless. However, unexpectedly, Chong Minggue only glanced at the two of them viciously. The ghost-eyed golden eagle quickly rose into the clouds and disappeared, leaving directly. The battle ended too suddenly. Lu Ziyu didn't react for a moment and looked at Lin Yi blankly. What a pity. Lin Yi smiled bitterly and shook his head. He had already guessed the reason for Chong Minggue's sudden departure, because this was the most crucial part of his plan. If he had succeeded, Chong Minggue would really have died here tonight. However, such a vicious and domineering guy had actually turned around and fled without hesitation when he sensed that something was wrong. It really made people speechless. After all, Chong Minggue wasn't a brainless idiot. He was only rough and arrogant on the surface, but when it came to a crucial moment, he definitely wouldn't do something stupid. It was the same at the banquet, and it was the same now. Zhuang Yifan suddenly appeared in front of the two of them and said to Lin Yi with a face full of concern, "Master Lin, I came a step too late and startled you. Are your injuries serious?" Lu Ziyu suddenly understood. So it was this person who had come. No wonder Chong Minggue had suddenly fled. If he hadn't fled, he really would have died here tonight. With Zhuang Yifan's strength, if he really wanted to kill him, there was no way he could have survived. "Oh, it's nothing." Lin Yi shook his head. "I'm really sorry. I was just about to go into seclusion to take the solid earth pill. I only noticed something strange just now. I really didn't think that Chong Minggue would be so daring as to openly attack Master Lin in the Alliance's territory. If he hadn't run away so quickly, I would have made sure his blood would have been spilled," Zhuang Yifan said, a little embarrassed. "Headmaster Zhuang, there's no need to blame yourself. I wasn't seriously injured, and it happened so suddenly. It's normal for him to escape." Although he said that, Lin Yi's expression was a little thought-provoking. No. For something like this to happen to Master Lin in the Alliance's territory, no matter what, As the headmaster of the Alliance, I cannot absolve myself from the blame. Looks like the guards should be the ones to reorganize themselves. They didn't react at all when something like this happened. What a bunch of good-for-nothings. Zhuang Yifan couldn't help but vent his anger. Lin, Yi, and Lu Ziyu looked at each other without saying anything. From the time they had fought Chong Minggui until now, it had already been half the time it took for a stick of incense to burn. In the end, there were so many mountain opening stage experts in the Alliance's territory, and not a single one of them had rushed over. It was a little unreasonable. How about this, Master Lin? You two follow me to the Alliance's division. There are the best doctors in the Alliance there. Your injuries can't be delayed, Zhuang Yifan suggested. That won't be necessary. I also know a bit of medicine. It's more than enough to treat our injuries. Lin Yi waved his hand and refused. Oh, I didn't think that you, Master Lin, are also a medical expert. Zhuang Yifan paused when he heard that, and then slapped his head in realization. Hey, look at my memory. Master Zhang Liju isn't just a pill god. He's also the top medical saint on Sky-class Island. As his disciple, Master Lin is naturally skilled in medicine. Haha, if there's nothing else, I'll go treat Aunt Lu's injuries first. Lin Yi smiled. Right. Treating your injuries is more important. I'll send you off. As soon as Zhuang Yifan finished speaking, he immediately used his true qi to envelop Lin Yi and Lu Ziyu, sending them back to the Morning Star Academy's treasured ship in the blink of an eye. Chapter 49-57. Chairman Zhuang, then I won't be sending you off. Lin Yi bade farewell to Zhuang Yifan, indicating for the three girls to calm down. Then he supported Lu Ziyu into a specialized recovery room. After Lin Yi had Lu Ziyu sit down, he immediately channeled essential qi from his back to treat her injuries. At the same time, he was also treating his own injuries. Both of their injuries were not light, especially Lu Ziyu, who had expended a large amount of vital energy in addition to her injuries. Right now, she was in a rather weak state. Your essential qi can actually treat people's injuries. Lu Ziyu could sense that wherever Lin Yi's essential qi passed through, her injuries would rapidly recover. She could not help but be astonished. She had never seen such a fast recovery rate before. Yes, my essential qi is rather unique. Lin Yi nodded. Originally, such a secret could not be casually revealed to outsiders, but after tonight's battle, if he still treated Lu Ziyu as an outsider, he would be too heartless. Just because of a sudden request of his, Lu Ziyu had risked her life to engage in a life-and-death battle with Chong Minggui, who was much stronger than her. From this moment onwards, Lin Yi had already treated her as a true senior, a senior whom he could entrust his back to. You're really an extraordinary person. Lu Ziyu could not help but smile. Then, she changed the topic and said, the final step of your plan just now should have been for Zhuang Yifan to kill Chong Minggui, right? That's right. Unfortunately, it was all for naught. Lin Yi smiled bitterly, feeling a little dispirited. From luring the enemy to setting up the formation, everything had progressed perfectly. However, it was clear that it was not enough to kill Chong Minggui. Whether this plan could succeed or not depended on the final step. It all depended on whether Zhuang Yifan would make a move in time. Actually, everything that Lin Yi had planned before was for Zhuang Yifan to make a move. Even the location of the ambush was not randomly chosen. It could not be too far from the Alliance branch, as that would be beyond the range of Zhuang Yifan's divine sense. However, it could not be too close to the Alliance branch, as that would prevent Chong Minggui from giving up on the chase. Only the location that he had chosen was just right. Logically speaking, with Chong Minggui and Lu Ziyu fighting at the ambush point for so long, the commotion should have been world-shaking, so it was impossible for the Alliance branch to not notice it at all. Unfortunately, Zhuang Yifan still arrived late, allowing Chong Minggui to escape. After all, Zhuang Yifan is no ordinary person. It won't be easy to use him to kill someone. Lu Ziyu also felt that it was a pity. Although the reason that Zhuang Yifan gave was reasonable, both she and Lin Yi did not think that he would be so slow. If they guessed correctly, Zhuang Yifan must have done it on purpose. Yes, I thought that a person of power like him would put profit first, and would most likely take this opportunity to take down Chong Mingguei and take control of Cauldron City. I didn't think that he would be unmoved. It is really hard to guess the thoughts of such a big shot. Lin sighed. In his opinion, the alchemy ability that he had displayed before was enough for Zhuang Yifan to try his best to rope him in, especially when he had leaked the news that he was trying to break through to Mystic's second-level alchemist. If he was in Zhuang Yifan's shoes, he would definitely take this opportunity to take down Chong Mingguei and take control of Cauldron City. At the same time, he would be moved to tears. This was killing two birds with one stone. How could Zhuang Yifan not take it? What he didn't know was that he had been tricked by himself. If he was just a mystic first-level alchemist, Zhuang Yifan might have really made a move. However, he was now a mystic second-level alchemist in name, which made Zhuang Yifan give up on the idea. A future mystic second-level alchemist, with Zhuang Yifan's current strength, was bound to him no matter what. If he wanted to have a closer relationship with Lin Yi, he obviously couldn't be the only one asking for help from Lin Yi. Conversely, Zhuang Yifan had to have something to ask of him as well. Both of them had value to each other. Only with this kind of benefit could their relationship be stable. That was why he purposely left Chong Mingguei as a threat to Lin Yi. This was, in a sense, raising a bandit to strengthen himself. As long as Chong Mingguei appeared once, his position in Lin Yi's heart would increase. The bottom line was that Lin Yi didn't die. This was a profitable business. Zhuang Yifan is a very shrewd person. You should be more careful when dealing with him in the future. Although you're a mystic first-level alchemist, the difference in strength between you and him is too great. It's easy to get into trouble. Lu Ziyu reminded him, then shook her head and sighed. It's a pity that we let Chong Mingguei escape this time. Although he's also injured and should stop for a while, when he makes a comeback next time, it won't be so easy to deal with him. Lin Yi nodded in agreement. This time, the time and place were all on his side. Chong Mingguei unknowingly stepped into a trap. It wouldn't be so easy next time. When the time came, the enemy would be in the dark while he was in the light. Lin Yi wouldn't even have the chance to prepare in advance, let alone set up a trap for him. I'm actually fine here. I don't plan on staying in the East Continent. I'll be fine as long as I return to the North Island. Lin Yi shook his head nonchalantly, then said worriedly, I'm more worried about you, Aunt Lu. You've offended Chong Mingguei this time. He definitely won't let this go. Lin Yi could just leave, but Lu Ziyu, as the vice headmaster of Morning Pride Academy, obviously couldn't do so. Although she was a mid-stage mountain opening expert, she was still a distance away from Chong Mingguei. With Chong Mingguei's vengeful personality, he wouldn't let her go. You don't have to worry about this. With my strength, even if I can't beat him, protecting myself won't be a problem. If he dares to come to my Morning Pride Academy's territory and behave atrociously, even if I don't die, I'll still skin him alive. Does he really think that my Morning Pride Academy is easy to bully? Lu Ziyu said disapprovingly. Hearing that, Lin Yi heaved a sigh of relief. He had just been thinking about whether he should call Lu Ziyu to go to the North Island to lie low for a while. In any case, she and Shanghai Tianhua were old acquaintances, so he could just treat it as a visit to an old friend's house. However, since Lu Ziyu had already expressed her stance, there was no need for him to do anything unnecessary. After all, he was a big shot of a region. Even if his strength was inferior, with Lu Ziyu's personality, she really wouldn't be afraid of him. Who knew? It might even become a motivation for her to advance to the next level. All right, your healing true chi is quite useful. This bit of injury of mine is more or less healed. Lu Ziyu clicked her tongue in wonder, indicating for Lin Yi to retract his true chi as she stood up and said, Your injuries aren't light either. Hurry up and heal yourself. Don't worry about me. After saying that, without waiting for Lin Yi to speak, Lu Ziyu left the room by herself, leaving Lin Yi alone to continue healing. Chapter 4958. Such a bold plan. If it had been anyone else, they would have taken a while. Even if they agreed to help in the end, the opportunity would have been gone. Speaking of which, tonight's fishing plan was indeed full of danger. Even Lin Yi himself could not help but feel some lingering fear. Chang Mingue's strength was truly beyond his imagination. Fortunately, his luck was not bad, and the other party had underestimated him. Otherwise, forget about dragging it out until Zhuang Yifan made a move. Lin Yi reckoned that he would not even be able to survive the first step of luring the enemy. He would have died under Chang Mingue's wind blades before he even reached the ambush point. And in the end, if Zhuang Yifan had not appeared, with his and Lu Ziyu's physical strength being almost exhausted, they would have most likely died when facing the enraged Chang Mingue. In this aspect, Zhuang Yifan had actually been a great help. Although he had not been able to kill Chang Mingue as Lin had wished, he had at least scared him away and saved his and Lu Ziyu's lives. He still remembered this favor. As Lin Yi healed himself, he inspected the state of his body. He suddenly discovered that his 8 compound spirit roots were much more solid than when he had just broken through. The various elements were fused more seamlessly, and even the qi in his body was calmer and less restless. This discovery immediately made Lin Yi overjoyed. According to his past experience, this was clearly a sign that he had completely consolidated his mysterious ascension primary stage. How long had it been since he had broken through? He had originally thought that it would take at least 3 months or even half a year. But thinking about it carefully, this result was actually not that surprising. Actual combat was the best way to consolidate one's strength. And looking back at Lin Yi's recent battles, putting aside Chang Mingue, who was a weakling of the same level, the unfathomable vengeful spirit, the early mountain opening stage Zhang Zili, and the late mountain opening stage Chang Mingue were all extremely intense battles. If he still could not consolidate his strength like that, then it would really be strange. While Lin Yi was rejoicing, on the other side, Chang Mingue, who had fled on the ghost-eyed golden eagle, was currently in an extremely bad mood. Not only had he not been able to kill Lin Yi, but he had instead been tricked by Lin Yi and Lu Ziyu. His chest had been pierced through by a sword, coupled with the strongest lightning burial. To a late-stage mountain opening expert like him, though such injuries were not fatal, they were definitely not minor injuries that could be healed in a day or two. What made Chang Mingue even more depressed was the fact that even though Lin Yi was on Thunder Plain Island, he could only watch and not dare to attack again. Zhuang Yifan's sudden appearance had already shocked him. Although Zhuang Yifan did not make a move to stop him, who knew what Zhuang Yifan would do if he was attacked again? After being depressed, Chang Mingue finally understood. With his strength, killing Lin Yi was indeed as easy as flipping his hand, but Lin Yi had an expert like Lu Ziyu protecting him, so he could not completely crush him. Once the battle dragged on, Zhuang Yifan would definitely come to the rescue. Under such circumstances, it would be almost impossible to kill Lin Yi. However, even though he understood, Chang Mingue did not plan on giving up. However, according to the rumors that Lin Yi had Li Ren spread, there was not much time left for him to act. Not to mention letting Lin Yi escape back to the northern island. Even if he only returned to the Morning Star Academy's territory, it would not be easy for him to act again. One had to know that the strength of the 3 Morning Star magnates was not below Lu Ziyu's, especially Dean Ling Yuanqing, whose strength was not much weaker than Chang Mingue's. If he dared to kill Lin Yi in the Morning Star Academy's territory, the 3 Morning Star magnates would not be as scheming as Zhuang Yifan. They would definitely fight to the death, and Chang Mingue might even have to pay with his life. He did not dare to take this risk. After thinking about it, Chang Mingue felt that the best opportunity was still here. Before Zhuang Yifan could react, he would use his absolute strength to kill him in one blow, or perhaps he could just take care of that detestable Zhuang Yifan as well. After hesitating for a while, Chang Mingue suddenly had a flash of inspiration and immediately made up his mind. He did not hesitate to overdraft the ghost-eyed golden eagle's life force to increase its speed to the maximum, and the man and eagle quickly disappeared into the moonlight. In the hall of the Morning Star Academy's treasured ship, because of the huge commotion earlier, almost everyone on the ship was gathered there. As the leader of the group, Li Run was busy arranging for people to repair the protective spell formation. Although the protective spell formation had been destroyed on the spot by Chang Minggui's two giant wind blades, neither the main body of the treasured ship nor the protective spell formation itself had suffered much damage. As long as they repaired it slightly and infused enough spiritual qi, the protective spell formation would naturally be able to be activated again. "Master, how is Lin?" Hui Yudi and the rest saw Lu Ziyu come out and immediately surrounded her. "He seems to be in good condition, so he should be fine. Don't worry." Lu Ziyu smiled and comforted them. "Oh, that's good." Hui Yudi and the rest all heaved a sigh of relief and then asked about the situation of the battle just now. Lu Ziyu naturally answered every question, and although it was only a few plain words, the information revealed still made everyone unconsciously break out in a cold sweat, and they were filled with lingering fear. No wonder he insisted on not letting them participate, although they were all in the early stages of the mysterious Ascension realm. And in terms of strength, they were far stronger than the average experts of the same level. But in front of a fiend like Chang Minggue, they could not even be considered cannon fodder. Even he was in such a dangerous situation, let alone the few of them. In the time it took for them to speak, he had already finished healing his injuries and appeared in front of everyone in a relaxed manner. Needless to say, he was once again surrounded by the group of girls who examined him from head to toe. After confirming that he had indeed recovered, the girls were finally willing to let go of him. "I already said that I'm really fine, but you still didn't believe me." He did not know whether to laugh or cry as he looked at his messy clothes, looking as if he had been humiliated. At this moment, he suddenly saw a figure in the corner of the hall, and his heart skipped a beat as he remembered what had happened before. He immediately called out, "Miss Chinyu, is it convenient for you to come with me for a moment?" As soon as he finished speaking, not only Lu Ziyu, Hui Yudi, and the others, but even the other Morning Star disciples in the distance revealed strange gazes. Each and every one of them looked at Lin Yi and Chinyu with mischievous eyes. If not for Lin Yi's strength and status, all sorts of rumors would have been flying around. Chinyu was also stunned, and after noticing everyone's expressions, she could not help but blush. She hesitated for a moment, then lowered her head and weakly responded, following Lin Yi's footsteps. The two of them arrived at Lin Yi's room. Just as Lin Yi sat down, he saw Chinyu, who was behind him, close the door with a turn of her hand. "What are you doing?" Lin Yi could not help but be stunned. Chapter 4959. "Oh, this was given by Jiang Hahai. You don't have to thank me." Lin Yi waved his hand. Chinyu looked at him deeply. She knew that with Jiang Hahai's ability, he would not be able to take out the Thunder Quintessence pill. Only this legendary mystic tier alchemist could casually take out the rare Thunder Quintessence pill and give it away. Therefore, Lin Yi could not deceive her at all. That Chinyu suddenly blushed and lowered her head, saying weakly, "Master Lin, did you call me over to repay you?" "What?" Lin Yi almost choked when he heard that. What was going on? Did he look that wretched? Could it be that he had guessed wrong? Chinyu was clearly stunned when she saw his reaction. She secretly muttered in her heart. Or was this Master Lin a hypocrite? He was obviously doing dirty things, but he still pretended to be virtuous? Lin Yi frowned when he saw her expression. He pointed at the opposite seat and asked her to sit down. In a serious tone, he said, "I have something I wanted to ask you before. What is your relationship with those two male disciples?" "Male disciples?" Chinyu thought for a while before she reacted. She said with some surprise, "Are you talking about Qi Dong and Chun Chong?" "I don't know their names. I just saw that you have a close relationship with them. That's why I asked." Lin Yi said lightly. Although he'd only met Jiang Hahai once, he sympathized with this infatuated man. What Chinyu had done before, on the other hand, was truly chilling. Lin Yi wasn't at the point where he'd be filled with righteous indignation. After all, this was a private matter, but he still felt that it was unfair for Jiang Hahai. Chinyu fell into silence when she heard that. She lowered her head and did not speak for a long time. Lin could see that she was trying her best to restrain herself, but she could not stop the sound of sobbing. The atmosphere in the room was filled with sorrow and anger. It seemed that there was a hidden story. After a long time, Yu suddenly raised her head and reached out to wipe away the tears on her face. She said calmly with determination, "Master Lin, if you see Jiang Hahai, please help me pass a message. Tell him that I, Yu, have died. I have let him down." "You're dead?" Lin Yi's frown deepened, and he sternly said, "Miss Qin, if you have something to say it clearly in front of me. If you have any difficulties, we can also find a way to solve it. Or did you really do something wrong to Jiang Hahai? Did you cheat on him?" Qin Yu's expression darkened. Her eyes turned red as she sobbed. "I've really let him down. I'm no longer clean. I don't deserve him. If you had known this would happen, you wouldn't have acted in the first place." He shook his head and secretly felt sorry for Jiang Hahai. It was hard for him to think of ways to save up a gathering, nascent soul golden pill, and even did not hesitate to ask a stranger to bring it here. However, he did not know that Qin Yu was no longer the original Qin Yu. His infatuation was really wasted. "I didn't want to," Qin Yu cried silently. "I've decided to give my life to Ahai. Even if it's 100 years or 1,000 years, I'll wait for him. I'll never regret it." "Then how did you become like this?" Linny frowned. Through the previous performance, he believed Qin Yu's words a little. Putting aside other things, at least Qin Yu must have feelings for Jiang Hahai. Otherwise, she wouldn't have asked him to bring Jiang Hahai a medicinal pill when they were on the road to becoming a giant. A condensed nascent soul golden pill and a vitality cultivating pill. How could a normal person give such a medicinal pill to someone for no reason? "Because I was..." Qin Yu was obviously hesitant and struggling halfway through her words. In the end, she took a deep breath and gritted her teeth to finish the second half of the sentence. "I was raped." "What?" He was shocked and looked at Qin Yu in disbelief. After a long time, he asked in a deep voice, "Who?" "Zheng Tianguang." Although Qin Yu lowered her head when she said this name, He could clearly feel her gritting her teeth. This kind of hatred had completely seeped into her bones. After all, it was this person who ruined her originally beautiful life and forced her to sink into this state. "Who is Zheng Tianguang?" He asked with a frown. "He is a second-generation cultivator in the academy. He is the son of the academy's #2 alchemist, Zheng Dongsheng. In the past, he often hung out with Bao Zhuoyang and the others." Qin Yu's tone suddenly became unprecedentedly calm, as if she was a bystander, and calmly narrated, "From the first day at Morningstar Academy, I was targeted by him. After being rejected by me 3 times in a row, he became angry out of humiliation and drugged me, doing such beastly things." Linny did not say anything. He only faintly felt that the name Zheng Dongsheng was somewhat familiar. Although he should not have heard of it or seen it before, he felt that it should be related to someone that he had interacted with before. "I have no background here, no backing. After the incident, I did not know how to resist, nor did I know how to take revenge, so I could only seek death. However, after being saved several times, I gradually became numb," Qin Yu said calmly. "What happened after that?" Linny asked. From then on, I became his plaything. I used my body to exchange for the cultivation resources in his hands." Qin Yu's current state of mind could be said to be terrifying. Speaking of this kind of thing, she could actually still laugh. With an unfathomable expression, she said, "Later, Zheng Tianguang went to the Mystic Sea region, and I was targeted by a few other second-generation cultivators. Since I was unable to resist, I simply broke the jar and used my beauty to mingle with those men in exchange for cultivation resources." Upon hearing this, He was stunned. He did not know how to evaluate Qin Yu's choice. It would be too cold to say that she did not have self-respect, but he could not say that she did the right thing. He could only be speechless. Qin Yu saw Lin Yi's expression and shook her head with a bitter smile. "Anyway, I have already become like this. In order to survive, there is no other way. I actually do not want to live, but I want to do something for Ahai before I die. Even if it is just to save a few medicinal pills for him and ask someone to bring them over, it can make up for what I owe him. Otherwise, I will not be able to die in peace." After saying this, Qin Yu fell into silence again. At this moment, Lin Yi saw her look of despair and sighed. Although he did not agree with her choice, it was not her fault that she became like this. In a place like East Continent College, where the strong preyed on the weak, it was indeed difficult to survive without a strong backer and a strong background. In comparison, Wang Xinyan, Huang Xiaodao, and Hui Yudi were much luckier than her. Not to mention other things, at least they had a strong and protective master. Chapter 4960. Lin Yi couldn't help but rejoice when he thought of this. Fortunately, the three of them had good luck. Otherwise, who knows if the miserable experience of Qin Yu would repeat itself on them. This wasn't impossible. Thinking about Tian Chan and Sydney on Middle Island, they were living examples. After a long silence, Lin Yi let out a long breath and slowly said, "Okay, I know what happened to you. It's not your fault. You don't have to blame yourself too much." "Thank you, Master Lin." Qin Yu bowed slightly, but her expression didn't change much. For a woman like her, whether Lin Yi understood or misunderstood, it didn't matter much. Since the day she gave up, she no longer cared about her reputation. "However, I hope that you don't give up on yourself anymore. I will talk to Qing Danzi. In the future, he will be your backer. Also, if you encounter any trouble again, you can go to Wang Xinyan and Huang Xiaodao. They won't just stand by and watch." Lin Yi paused and continued. "You are now an early-stage mysterious ascension master. When you go to the mysterious sea, it will be a brand new beginning. At that time, work hard and don't give up on yourself. Do you understand?" This, Qin Yu couldn't help but look at Lin Yi in shock. She thought that Lin Yi suddenly asked about her matters on a whim. She didn't expect that this high and mighty Master Lin would take the initiative to help her. For a moment, she didn't know how to react. "As for your matters, I will tell the truth to Jiang Hahai when I have the chance. I don't know what decision he will make, and of course I won't interfere." Lin Yi sighed. One was an infatuated man, and the other was a bitter woman. From a standpoint, of course, he hoped that the two of them would have a good ending. However, this was obviously not something he could interfere with. Since ancient times, men have always valued a woman's reputation, especially in a society like Heavenly Island. Although Jiang Hahai was infatuated, he might give up after knowing about Qin Yu's matter. "Thank you, Master Lin. I will never forget your great kindness." Qin Yu stood up and bowed to Lin Yi. Her face was a little livelier than before, but there was also some nervousness. Her originally dead state of mind had a slight ripple. But even so, she actually didn't have much hope for the future. She was already a withered willow, and she was already satisfied to be able to do something for her lover. As for anything else, she really didn't dare to ask for more. Once there was hope, there would be greater disappointment and even despair in the end. She didn't want to die again. Lin Yi didn't say much. Qin Yu was suffering from a mental illness, and it needed medication to treat it. Only when she got over it herself could everything get better. "I know you want revenge. Work hard. There will come a day when you can take revenge with your own hands." Lin Yi paused, looked at her, and said, "That Zheng Tingguan you mentioned, if I wanted to crush him, it would be as easy as flipping my hand. But I can help you once, but I can't help you forever. He is a knot in your heart, and only you can untie it yourself." "Yes." Qin Yu nodded silently. "All right, in the future, whether you pull yourself together or continue to sink, it's all up to you. Go back." Lin Yi said to send her off. Qin Yu looked deeply at Lin Yi, nodded heavily, and left the room. However, before she could take a few steps, the two male disciples who had an ambiguous relationship with her before had already surrounded her. It was Qi Dong and Chen Chong. Although their backgrounds weren't as deep as Bao Zhuliang's, they could still be considered the second generation of cultivation. "What's going on? When did he take a fancy to you?" Qi Dong came up to her with a nervous expression. "That's right. Isn't it enough for him to have beauties like Wang Xinyan and Huang Xiaotao? Don't tell me he won't let go of a broken flower like you? Isn't that too lustful?" Chen Chong complained in a low voice. Qin Yu looked at the two with disgust. and remembered what Lin Yi had said. She immediately said coldly, "Don't come looking for me in the future. Don't interfere with each other's business, or else don't blame me for being impolite." Ah! Qi Dong and Chen Chong froze at the same time as they stared at the woman in disbelief. Qin Yu used to be very obedient in front of them, and as long as they gave her training resources, she wouldn't object no matter what they asked her to do. She'd do whatever she wanted, so why was she turning her back on them after just one time? "You little hussy, what nonsense are you talking about? You don't want cultivation resources anymore? Or do you want us to find a few people to gang rape you?" Qi Dong immediately threatened in an evil tone. "Don't think that you can escape from us just because you're at the early profound ascension stage. Let me tell you, with your little strength in the Morning Star Academy, you will forever be trampled on by us, unless you can find a strong backer." Chen Chong snorted coldly. In this tyrant's path trial, the two of them, like most of the other Morning Star disciples, did not succeed in breaking through to the profound ascension stage. Other than their lack of strength, they were also unlucky enough to meet a freak like Lin Yi. Hence, the two of them were naturally inferior to Qin Yu, who was at the early profound ascension stage. They could only use their backer to scare Qin Yu into submission. "From now on, I won't let you touch even a finger of mine. If you don't believe me, feel free to try." Qin Yu looked at the two of them coldly, and then turned to leave. Qi Dong and Chen Chong looked at Qin Yu's back with an ugly expression, not daring to move at all. In that instant, they felt something they had never felt before from Qin Yu, a killing intent. If it was any other Morning Star disciple, even if they had the strength, they might not dare to kill the two of them. But Qin Yu was different. She was a woman with a dead heart. She could do anything without fear. Back then, she was willing to give up on herself, and now that she had the intention to rebel, she would naturally be unrestrained. Would such a woman not dare to kill? Damn it, this little hussy is going against the heavens. When we get back, we must make her suffer. Isn't she just at the early profound ascension stage? What's so great about her? Chen Chong spat fiercely and turned to look at Qi Dong. With our background, it'll be easy to find a few experts outside the academy in Morning Star City. Qi Dong, do you want to do it? No. Qi Dong shook his head decisively. Why? I remember that you're quite brave. When did you become so cowardly that you're even afraid of a profound ascension stage hussy? Chen Chong said in surprise. I'm brave, but I'm not stupid. Qi Dong looked at him and curled his lips. Of course, there's no need to be afraid of mere Qin Yu. But now that she has Lin Yi on her side, are you afraid? Chapter 4961. It could even be said that in front of Lin Yi, he didn't even have the right to speak. With just a glance of dissatisfaction, he would die a horrible death. Moreover, Lin, he didn't even need to do it himself. His father would have already kidnapped him to apologize. A big shot like Lin, he wouldn't be interested in such a broken shoe, right? Chen Chong frowned. The difference between Lin Yi and Qin Yu was like heaven and earth, and Lin Yi didn't lack women by his side. Wang Xinyan, Huang Xiaodao, and even Hui Yudi from the Morning Pride Academy. Which one of them wasn't better than Qin Yu? How did these two end up together? I don't think so, but you saw it too. He just called that coquettish hussy to his room. Who knows if he'll suddenly have a taste? Qi Dong shrugged helplessly. This? Chen Chong was terrified. If Qin Yu really managed to get a super big backer like Lin Yi, even if it was just once, they definitely couldn't provoke her again. Otherwise, if they really made Lin Yi unhappy, they wouldn't even know how they died. But the two of them had been with Qin Yu for so long, and they were extremely unwilling to let her go just like that. To be honest, they were still very infatuated with Qin Yu. After all, in terms of beauty, Qin Yu was considered first class. Even if she couldn't compare to Wang Xinyan, she wasn't too far off. In the entire Morning Star Academy, there really weren't many beauties that could compare to her. Let's wait and see. I reckon that Lin, he won't stay in our academy for too long. When he leaves, the tea will cool down. At that time, Qin Yu still won't be able to escape from our palms. Qi Dong said in a low voice. That's all we can do for now. Chen Chong nodded in agreement. Naturally, No one heard the conversation between the two of them hiding in the corner. In fact, even if Lin Yi heard it, he wouldn't care. With Qin Danzi's protection and Wang Xinyan and Huang Xiaodao's help, if Qin Yu still couldn't get rid of them, it could only mean that she was too weak. Even Lin Yi couldn't help her in every aspect. She could only rely on herself in the future. The next morning, the Morning Star Academy's treasured ship was bustling with activity. Li Ren was leading a group of Morning Star disciples to pack up, prepare to set sail immediately. Although Lin Yi had told him to spread the rumor that he was going to the Morning Star Academy earlier to lure the enemy, he could not go back on his word. Since the rumor had been spread, he had to carry it out seriously. Furthermore, he did not manage to kill Chang Mingue last night, and being able to return to Morning Star Academy a few days earlier was a good thing for Lin Yi, as he did not have to stay here in fear. The departure of the treasured ship was not something that could be done with just a roar. All kinds of preparation work were very complicated, especially since the defensive array had just been repaired. He still needed some time to test it. Otherwise, if he were to recklessly head out to sea only to discover that the protective formation had failed, then he would be in big trouble. Lin Yi was chatting with Xinyan and the girls on the deck as they made their final preparations. It was then that Zhuang Yifan boarded the ship himself, cupping his hands. "Master Lin, your earth-solidifying pill is truly effective. I can't thank you enough." "Oh." Lin Yi looked him up and down again, noticing that Zhuang Yifan's complexion was much better than before, and he no longer looked like he was suffering from a lack of blood. It seemed that after taking the earth-solidifying pill last night, his injuries had completely healed. Not only that, but Zhuang Yifan's aura now seemed to be restless, a sign that he was not far from breaking through. If it were not for such a strong foundation, Zhuang Yifan would not have forcefully broken through to the peak of the late stage of the Earth creation realm. Now that the Earth-solidifying pill had healed the old injuries in his body, and at the same time, it had greatly stabilized his strength. Who knew? He might be able to advance even further in a short period of time. Then I really have to congratulate President Zhuang. You have made great progress. Congratulations. Lin Yi cupped his hands with a smile. It's all Master Lin's credit. If it were not for you, how could I have gotten rid of such a huge threat? Master Lin is really my benefactor. Zhuang Yifan laughed. President Zhuang, you are too kind, Lin Yi said lightly. Not at all. Speaking of which, I am very ashamed. Master Lin helped me so much, but I can't give him anything in return. Just thinking about it makes me feel ashamed. Zhuang Yifan smiled bitterly. In the Mystic Sea region, asking any Mystic Level 1 alchemist to refine pills for him would require a huge price. This price could not be measured in spirit jades. Most of the time, one could only barter or do something for the other party to repay. Zhuang Yifan received the earth-solidifying pill from Lin Yi, but he did not give him the corresponding treasure, nor did he specifically do anything for Lin Yi. In fact, it was against the rules. You are too kind. Compared to refining pills, President Zhuang has helped me a lot more. I will remember it all, and I dare not forget it, Lin Yi said seriously. He was not just being polite. Not only did Zhuang Yifan help him suppress the crime of causing trouble in the Alliance's territory, he also stopped Chang Mingue at the banquet yesterday. On top of that, he also promised to matchmake the Chunxing and Chunjiao academies. With so many things added together, it was more than enough to make up for the price of one earth-solidifying pill. These small things are not worth mentioning. How can they be compared to something as important as refining pills? Master Lin, please don't embarrass me. Zhuang Yifan pretended to be ashamed, but in reality, he was very happy. These were all small things he'd done in passing, but each and every one of them counted as a favor, and the weight of it all added up wasn't light at all. Lin Yi remembered him, and that in itself was already a benefit to him. These are small things in President Zhuang's eyes, but to me, it is a matter of life and death. Don't be too humble, President Zhuang. Lin Yi smiled. It's not that I'm being humble, but Master Lin is being too polite. Zhuang Yifan was now determined to build a good relationship with Lin Yi. His attitude was very humble and sincere. After all, this was not an ordinary mystic first-level alchemist, but an alchemist who had the chance to become a mystic second-level alchemist. He still had many things to rely on in the future. All right, we don't have to be so polite anymore. It's too distant. I feel like we've known each other for a long time. Why don't we be friends from the same generation? What do you think, Headmaster Zhuang? Lin Yi suggested. Good. Master Lin's words are exactly what I wanted. To have a friend like you, Master Lin, is my honor. Zhuang Yifan was overjoyed. President Zhuang, that's not right. I just said that we'll be friends, and you're being polite again. Lin Yi laughed and shook his head. He pretended to be angry. Friends should be straightforward. President Zhuang, if you continue like this, I won't be able to be friends with you. Chapter 4962. That's more like it. Since we're friends, we can't just call each other Master Lin anymore. From now on, President Zhuang, you can call me by my full name, or you can call me little brother, Lin Yi said with a smile. All right, I'll call you Brother Lin then, but since that's the case, you don't have to call me Chairman Zhuang anymore. Since we're the same senior, just call me Big Bro Zhuang. How's that? Zhuang Yifan took advantage of the situation. You've always been the big bro. Lin Yi laughed heartily. The two were trying to get closer to each other, and in just a few sentences, they were already calling each other brother. Zhuang Yifan was many times older than Lin Yi, but he always maintained the appearance of a young man, and the two really did look like brothers when they stood together. After getting closer to Lin Fan, Zhuang Yifan didn't try to hide anything anymore and said directly, Brother Lin, there's something I wanted to ask you since last night, but I was afraid it would be rude. Since we're friends now, I'll be frank with you. How confident are you in breaking through to become a mystic second-level alchemist? That's hard to say. Although I feel like I'm 70 to 80% confident, it's hard to say until I succeed. Don't you think so, Big Bro Zhuang? Lin Yi smiled faintly. That's true. Zhuang Yifan nodded. He couldn't help but feel overjoyed at Lin Yi's confidence. 80% confident. Didn't that mean he had a high chance of success? If anyone else had boasted like this, Zhuang Yifan would have scoffed at it. But Lin Yi was different. The earth fortification pill from before had already proven his skills, not to mention that he was the disciple of the Dan God Zhang Liju. Breaking through to the second level of the mystic class was just a matter of time. It wasn't something to be surprised about. From what Big Bro Zhuang said, do you need a mystic second level pill? Lin Yi asked. That's right. I won't hide it from you. After taking your earth consolidating pill, I've recovered to my peak. I'm only one step away from breaking through to the peak of the late stage of the earth opening realm. After that, I'll be at the great completion of the earth opening realm, Zhuang Yifan admitted. That's a good thing. Once you reach earth creation great circle, Big Brother Zhuang will be able to attack the sea-splitting stage. Lin Yi couldn't help but feel eager when he said that. Reaching the sea-splitting stage meant that it was not far from the 5-poison flood dragon and the giant electric eel that he had seen before. It was a pity that Lin Yi himself was only at the early profound ascension stage. Not to mention the sea-splitting stage, he was still a long way from the mountain opening stage. Yes, that is indeed the case. However, it is very difficult to break through to the sea-splitting stage by relying on your own strength. You will also need the assistance of medicinal pills. Zhuang Yifan frowned slightly. What pill? As far as I know, after reaching the nascent soul stage, medicinal pills are no longer able to be used to break through to the next realm, right? Lin Yi asked curiously. The medicinal pill I'm talking about is called the Sea Giant Pill. It is not used to break through the barrier. In fact, it is just a kind of auxiliary medicinal pill, just like the Profound Thunder Pill. Zhuang Yifan saw that Lin Yi didn't quite understand. So he explained, when you break through to the Profound Ascension stage, you need to use the Profound Thunder Pill to resist the Thunder Tribulation, but it is not necessary to use the Profound Thunder Pill. If you are strong enough, you can rely on your own strength to endure it. The same goes for the Sea Giant Pill. It is not necessary, but it can make the breakthrough smoother, that's all. Lin Yi was a little stunned. In other words, the Sea Giant Pill itself could not be used to break through to the sea-splitting stage. The entire process of breaking through still depended on personal strength. The sea giant pill was just like the profound thunder pill. It could provide a better breakthrough environment. So, is it possible that when breaking through to the sea-splitting stage, there will also be heaven's wrath like the thunder tribulation? Lenny asked. That's not it. Once heaven's wrath is enough. How could it come every time? Otherwise, wouldn't the heavens be too busy? Zhuang Yifan smiled and explained. The sea giant pill is not used to resist heaven's wrath. It is a miraculous medicinal pill used to transform our physical body. It can transform our dantian into a wider Dan sea. And this Dan sea is the first step to breaking through to the sea-splitting stage. So that's how it is. Then this Dan sea can only be formed by taking the sea giant pill? Lin Yi asked again. During this time, the ghost had been in seclusion, so he had no one to ask this question to. He could only keep Zhuang Yifan. Not necessarily. In fact, even if we don't use the sea giant pill, we can still use our own strength to transform it bit by bit. However, this process is very difficult and long. If we are a little lacking in talent and willpower, it will be very difficult to succeed. Some people, even if they succeed in the end, will miss the opportunity to break through because it takes too long. They will never be able to break through again in their lifetime. But by taking the sea giant pill, we can skip this long stage. Zhuang Yifan patiently answered every question. Thank you, Big Brother Zhuang, for answering my question. Presumably, this sea giant pill should be a mystic second-rank pill, right? Lenny guessed. That's right. This kind of pill can't be bought in the entire yellow class C. We can only prepare the materials and ask someone to help us refine it. However, it is very difficult to find a mystic second-rank pill master. Even in Mystic Class C, there are very rare existences, let alone in the Yellow Class C. So I can only place my hopes on you, Big Brother Lin. Zhuang Yifan smiled bitterly. Looking at the entire Yellow Class C, there was only one mystic first-rank pill master, Zhang Zili. Now that he was beaten half to death by Lin Yi, Zhuang Yifan couldn't find anyone to help him. As for going to the Mystic Class C to find someone, it wasn't impossible, but the problem was that he didn't know any mystic second-rank pill masters. Why would they help him refine pills for no reason? So, Lin Yi, who was about to break through to the mystic second-rank pill master, became his only hope. This was the original reason why he was so polite to Lin Yi. Otherwise, as a great master in the late stage of the Earth-opening realm, even if he was polite, he wouldn't put himself in such a low position. At least, he wouldn't call Lin Yi a brother. Since Big Brother Zhuang values me so much, then I must not let Big Brother Zhuang down. When I successfully break through to the mystic second rank one day, Big Brother Zhuang's sea giant pill will be on me. Lin Yi immediately promised. He believed that with the conditions of the godly armament cauldron, refining the sea giant pill shouldn't be difficult. First the solid earth pill, then the sea giant pill. In this way, Zhuang Yifan would definitely value him more. At that time, Zhuang Yifan might already be a master in the sea-splitting stage. This was a real super help. How could Lin Yi let it go? Chapter 4963. Thank you, Brother Zhuang. Lin Yi was also overjoyed. If he had gotten Zhuang Yifan's promise last night, he wouldn't have needed to spend so much effort to plot against Chang Minggui, and he wouldn't have failed in the end. As long as Zhuang Yifan was willing to make a move, even 10 Chang Minggui wouldn't be enough to kill him. But thinking about it, it was only because Zhuang Yifan had taken the Earth Solid pill that this could happen. This was human nature. Haha, since the first time we met, I felt regret for not having met earlier. Now, this feeling is getting stronger and stronger. Come, let's have a drink to celebrate. At the same time, we can also send Brother Lin off, Zhuang Yifan suggested. Okay, I'll get someone to arrange it. Lin Yi immediately called Li Ren over. Since they hadn't left the port yet, he might as well strike while the iron was hot and get closer to Zhuang Yifan. After all, he would be a powerful ally in the future. But before the food and wine were served, there was a commotion outside the ship. The familiar howling wind from last night came again. Lin Yi and Zhuang Yifan were startled. Could it be that Chang Minggui had returned? Lin brat, come out and accept your death. A ferocious voice echoed outside the ship. It was indeed Chang Minggui. When Lin Yi heard this voice, he wasn't surprised. Instead, he was happy. He was worried that this guy wouldn't leave him alone. He didn't expect him to deliver himself to his doorstep. Coincidentally, Zhuang Yifan had just threatened him, so this guy was simply there to test Zhuang Yifan. Let's go out and take a look. Zhuang Yifan's face darkened, and he immediately led the way out of the cabin. At this time, there was a giant, ghost-eyed golden eagle hovering in the air, with Chang Minggui standing on its back. Apart from him, there was another person, a middle-aged man with long hair and a black beard. Seeing this scene, Lin Yi, Lu Ziyu, and the others felt their hearts skip a beat. Chang Minggui himself was not someone to be trifled with, but the middle-aged man standing next to him had an aura that was far above his own. The feeling he gave off wasn't that of a mountain-opening master at all, but an earth-opening master on the same level as Zhuang Yifan. Chang Tianwen. Zhuang Yifan's eyelids twitched, and he called out the middle-aged man's name. Hee, it's been many years. How have you been, Zhuang Yifan? Chang Tianwen's face was filled with mockery and complacency. It seemed like the two of them had some sort of conflict before. At the very least, they were definitely not on the same path. Why are you here instead of staying in the Xian Grade C region? This is the territory of the Golden Steppe Academy Alliance. According to the rules, you have to notify us before you enter. Don't you think it's a bit rude to barge in like this? Zhuang Yifan said in a low voice. After so many years, President Zhuang is still as heartless as ever. For people at our level, what use are these rules? Lin Yi was Tianwen. Lin Yi. Zhuang chun him. Zhuang chun Yi Yifan, and he said. Lin Chang chun Yifan, who is Yi Hu chun. With chun, Lin chun, and Lin chun, and have a Lin. Hearing this, Lin Yi and the others realized that this person was Chang Minggui's brother. Chang Minggui was looking for his parents after suffering a loss. As expected, mountain opening late-stage experts were people too, and they thought the same as ordinary people. This is their own personal fight, and it was clearly stated in advance that the Academy's alliance does not need to interfere, nor can we. They can only blame themselves for being weak if they suffer a loss. Who else can they blame? Zhuang Yifan snorted mercilessly. Blame themselves? That's what you mean, right? But I don't believe it. A mere mysterious ascending stage can defeat a mountain-opening early-stage expert. This is unheard of in the Xian Grade C region. Could it be that there are more hidden dragons and crouching tigers in this small place? I suspect that you, Zhuang Yifan, are behind this. Chang Tianwen sneered. Is that so? Looks like you're not here to seek justice, but to stir up trouble. However, I'm curious about one thing. Back in the Mystic Sea, you were my defeated opponent. Where did you get the confidence to stir up trouble in my territory? Did you break through again? Zhuang Yifan stared coldly at Chang Tianwen. Chang Tianwen shook his head. Chang Tianwen's expression was one of disbelief. Hearing this, Chang Tianwen's face darkened. Losing to Zhuang Yifan in the Xian Grade C region was the greatest humiliation of his life. It was a scar that no one could open. Don't try to deceive yourself with stupid words like, I lost to you. If I hadn't underestimated my opponent, how could you, Zhuang Yifan, become the Academy Alliance leader? Chang Tianwen curled his lips in disdain. If that's the case, then I have to thank you for showing mercy back then. Zhuang Yifan sneered. Chang Tianwen's face darkened. Chang Tianwen's expression became more and more unsightly. He had always felt that he was stronger than Zhuang Yifan, be it in terms of background or strength. Back then, when people compared the two of them, he was dismissive and even said that Zhuang Yifan was no match for him. In the end, after they fought, he found out that he was no match for Zhuang Yifan. The mocking looks from the crowd at that time still made him feel extremely humiliated, and he took it to heart. After becoming the Academy Alliance leader, your strength didn't improve, but your mouth has become a lot sharper. Congratulations. Chang Tianwen sneered and said, "This Lin kid is mine today. Zhuang Yifan, if you're not the one behind this, you won't stop me, right?" After all, according to what you just said, this is a private matter between him and us, isn't it? Whether it's a private matter or not, it's not up to you to decide. My brother Lin has to say it himself. As long as he doesn't agree, then he will be a part of the Academy Alliance. I can guarantee that you won't be able to touch him, Zhuang Yifan said lightly. Brother Lin, you, Zhuang Yifan, are a late-stage Earth Creation Realm Master, and you're talking to a kid as your peer? Don't you feel ashamed? Chang Tianwen laughed. Seeing that Zhuang Yifan was still unmoved, Chang Tianwen said coldly, "So you're protecting him?" "That's right." Zhuang Yifan nodded without hesitation. Even if he didn't have a grudge with Chang Tianwen, there was no way he would let Lin fall into Chang Tianwen's hands. After all, Lin, he was his biggest hope of breaking through to the sea-splitting realm. Then there's nothing more to say. I didn't want to take advantage of you, but you forced my hand. Chang Tianwen laughed. As soon as he finished speaking, a monstrous pressure suddenly pressed down from the sky. The huge Morning Star treasure ship sank, and a large part of it was pressed down by this incomparably powerful pressure. The originally calm sea became turbulent. Chapter 4964. All right, I'll wash away my shame today and let you see what I, Chang Tianwen, am capable of. Chang Tianwen laughed and chased after him. Both of them were experts in the late stage of the Earth opening realm. Once they got serious, their power would definitely be able to destroy heaven and earth. Not to mention the dock beneath their feet, even the entire Thunderplane Island would be affected. That was a consequence that neither of them could afford to bear. Hence, the two of them could only fight on the vast sea. Only there could they display their strength without any worries. The two of them quickly disappeared from everyone's sight, leaving only Chong Mingue and Lin Yi's group. Town Leader Chong. The two of them have already made their move. Shouldn't we fight again? We didn't fight to our heart's content last night, right? Lin Yi raised his head and looked at Chong Mingue. You'll die later. There's no need to be so impatient. Chong Mingue's expression was unmoved. He wanted nothing more than to kill Lin Yi, but not now. After all, news of what had happened here would spread out very quickly, and the mountain opening stage expert from the Alliance's guard team would arrive very soon. If Lu Ziyu, a middle mountain opening stage expert, was added to the mix, he would not even have the slightest chance of victory, and he might not even be able to escape. He, the arrogant and despotic town leader Chong, also has times when you're afraid. Could it be that you're afraid that your clan brother won't be able to defeat President Zhuang? So you're afraid that he'll come back to settle the score? Lin Yi smiled lightly. Kid, don't be too happy yet. Since I specifically asked my clan brother to come here, then my clan brother naturally has the confidence to deal with Zhuang Yifan. Once Zhuang Yifan is defeated, your life or death will be in my hands. If I were you, I wouldn't waste my saliva trying to be brave. Instead, I'd quickly think about how to plead for mercy later. Chong Mingue smiled coldly. From what you've said, Town Leader Chong seems to have a lot of confidence in your clan brother. But from what the two of them said just now, how could he have been defeated by President Zhuang back then? Lin, he said lightly. That was then and this is now. My clan brother was defeated once, but that doesn't mean he will be defeated again. Chong Mingue looked down at Lin Yi and said, You people don't know yet, but Zhuang Yifan and my brother are both late-stage Earth opening experts. But this time, Zhuang Yifan will lose because he is injured. How did you know? Lin Yi looked at him with interest. This kind of thing was top secret, and Zhuang Yifan would not easily reveal it. Otherwise, his enemies would come knocking on his door, and Lin Yi would have a headache. This kind of thing only benefits me, so there's no harm in telling you. Zhuang Yifan asked my wife to concoct the Earth Consolidation Pill, which is a Mystic Level 1 pill specifically used for healing injuries. If he wasn't injured, why would he spend so much money to hire someone to concoct such an obscure pill? Zhuang Yifan said proudly. So that's how it is. No wonder Commander Chang is so confident. Lin Yi smiled, then looked at him and said, but I have bad news. President Zhuang told me today that his injuries have all healed, and he has returned to his peak condition. I'm afraid your plan is too late. Bullshit. His injuries can only be cured with the Earth Consolidation Pill, and my wife is the only Mystic Level 1 alchemist in the entire Yellow Class C. Where did he get the Earth Consolidation Pill? Kid, even if you want to bluff, you better use your brain first. Do you think everyone is as stupid as you? Chang Mingue looked at Lin Yi as if he was looking at an idiot. Oh, does Commander Chang not know that I am a Mystic Level alchemist? Lin Yi pretended to be surprised. You? Chang Mingue was stunned. He really didn't know about this. His first reaction was that this kid was just bluffing. He immediately sneered. How can a little kid like you be a mystic grade first-level alchemist? Kid, don't make me laugh. I really didn't think that Mayor Chang would be so uninformed. Even if you haven't heard of this, don't you think it's strange that someone of Guild Master Zhuang's level would treat a junior like me so differently? Lin Yi smiled, not minding it all. Chang Mingue was stunned. To be honest, he also thought it was strange that Zhuang Yifan would be so protective of this unknown kid. Rumor had it that he was from the North Island. Before, he thought he was a relative of Zhuang Yifan, but now it seemed that he was a first-level mystic stage alchemist. Hee, I don't need anyone to prove that I'm telling the truth. We'll know once we wait here. Lin Yi smiled faintly as he ordered Li Run to set up a table on the deck. He called Xin Yan and the girls over to have breakfast, completely disregarding Chang Mingue, a late Phase Mountain master, in his eyes. Chang Mingue was so angry that he almost fell off the ghost-eyed golden eagle's back. After a while, he snorted, "Then we'll see." The atmosphere was tense, but neither Lin Yi nor Chang Mingue had the intention to fight the other head-on. They could only engage in a meaningless war of words, because they knew that the decision wasn't up to them. Once Zhuang Yifan and Chang Tianwen finished their fight, the dust would settle on their side as well. Of course, there was another important reason why they weren't fighting right now, and that was that neither of them had enough confidence in taking down the other. Chang Mingue didn't dare take the risk of being surrounded by the Alliance's guards, while Lin Yi was purely at his wit's end. At least from last night's exchange, he and Lu Ziyu weren't a threat to Chang Mingue with their strength. The two sides fell into a stalemate. Lin Yi brought the girls to eat and chat, while Chang Mingue could only watch from the sky. Half an hour later, Zhuang Yifan and Chang Tianwen suddenly appeared in the sky above the crowd. There were no signs of injury on their bodies, but their auras were completely different. Zhuang Yifan was still as calm as ever, while Chang Tianwen was clearly in a state of confusion. It was obvious that he was at a disadvantage in the earlier exchange. "Brother, how is it?" Chang Mingue asked quickly. "Let's go." Chang Tianwen's face was pale. He used his pure energy to wrap up the ghost-eyed golden eagle and Chang Mingue, disappearing into the thick clouds. "Congratulations, Brother Zhuang. It looks like you've won." Lin Yi smiled at Zhuang Yifan. Chapter 4965. Thank you for helping me out, Brother Zhuang. Otherwise, I'm afraid I would have died today. Lin Yi cupped his hands in gratitude. He could still think of a way to trick Chang Mingue, but against someone like Chang Tianwen, even the most exquisite of schemes would be useless. Chang Tianwen could kill you with just a finger, so what was the use of schemes? Brother Lin, what are you talking about? With our relationship, do you think I just sit back and do nothing? Zhuang Yifan waved his hand and sighed. It's a pity that I can't help you take care of Chang Mingue today. Chang Tianwen is a late-stage Earth creation expert. After all, even if I could defeat him, I wouldn't dare to kill him. Otherwise, if you were to fight to the death, all of you would be in trouble. I can't take that risk. It's fine. I'm already very grateful that Brother Zhuang could help me survive today. Lin Yi smiled and shook his head. He was determined to leave the Eastern continent as soon as possible. If Chang Mingue and Chang Tianwen made a comeback, none of the experts he knew would be able to stop them except for Zhuang Yifan. Even a Morningstar 3 would be useless. Only by leaving the Eastern continent would they be able to survive. Yes, but you don't have to worry too much. I've already sent word to Chang Tianwen. If he dares to touch you, I'll personally go to the Mystic Sea and fight him for another 300 rounds. I believe he won't do anything in the short term. However, it's hard to say for Chang Mingue. He's arrogant and unruly, and he's suffered a great loss at your hands. I don't think he'll give up just like that. You have to be careful in the future, Zhuang Yifan reminded. Thank you, Brother Zhuang. Lin Yi nodded. At this time, Li Ren came to report that everything was ready, and they could set sail at any time. Lin Yi immediately bid farewell to Zhuang Yifan. Zhuang Yifan had wanted to ask Lin Yi to stay for a few more days, but the situation was different now. Every day that Lin Yi stayed here meant that he would be in more danger when he returned in the future, so Zhuang Yifan did not urge him to stay. Apart from that, Lin Yi had another matter to attend to, which was to bid farewell to Lu Ziyu and Hui Yudi. Although Zhuang Yifan had stepped forward to vouch for them, and the reconciliation between the Morning Star and Morning Pride Academies was already set in stone, the two of them could not just follow Lin Yi to the Morning Star Academy. Moreover, Lu Ziyu was the person in charge of the Morning Pride Academy's team, and could only return after all the disciples of the Morning Pride Academy had gathered. However, according to Lin Yi's plan, after he returned to the Morning Star Academy to settle some matters, he would soon return to the Soaring Cloud Academy and the Morning Pride Academy before leaving the Eastern Continent. Therefore, it wouldn't be long before they met again, so he wouldn't be too reluctant to part with Hui Yudi. Everything was ready. Under the gazes of Zhuang Yifan and the others, the Morning Star treasure ship slowly set sail amidst the low and melodious bugle call. At the same time, on the back of the ghost-eyed golden condor, Chang Minge finally mustered up the courage to ask carefully, "Clan brother, did you fight with Zhuang Yifan?" Chang Tianwen snorted, instantly angered at the mention of this matter. He pointed at Chang Mingue's nose and said angrily, "What did you say to me before? You said that Zhuang Yifan was injured, and that it was so serious that he had to use a solid earth pill to stabilize his cultivation level. But when I fought with him just now, I found that he was in peak condition and even stronger than before. How do you explain that?" This time, he agreed to fight Zhuang Yifan on the condition that Zhuang Yifan was injured. Otherwise, he knew that he was no match for Zhuang Yifan, and he wouldn't have come all the way from the Mystic Sea region to get beaten up. This time, he was completely tricked by Chang Mingue. "Calm down, clan brother. I didn't think of this either. Zhuang Yifan tried every possible way to get my wife to help him refine the solid earth pill. Who would have thought that the Lin brat was also a mystic first-rank alchemist? Zhuang Yifan already obtained the solid earth pill from him, and his injuries suddenly healed." Chang Mingue said weakly with his head drooped. Luckily this is his territory, and Zhuang Yifan was afraid that I would destroy his alliance branch. Otherwise, he would have been in deep trouble this time. You didn't even get such important information. You can't do anything right, but you're more than good at spoiling things. Chang Tianwen glared at him with dissatisfaction. "Calm down, clan brother. This time it was indeed my fault. I've caused you trouble." Chang Mingue quickly apologized. Seeing that Chang Tianwen's expression had eased a little, he carefully said, "In the end, this time, it was Lin Yi's fault. If he didn't refine the solid earth pill for Zhuang Yifan, how could Zhuang Yifan be your opponent?" According to what you've said, that brat really is a talent. He's a mystic first-rank alchemist at such a young age, and he can even defeat a mountain-opening early-stage expert at the Mystic Ascendant early stage. This brat is extraordinary. If we don't nip him in the bud, you'll be in big trouble in the future." Chang Tianwen nodded. "Clan brother, you're right. That's why I don't think this matter can be dragged on. But it looks like that brat will return to Morning Star Academy soon. Should we chase after him and kill him?" Chang Mingue suggested. "That's your own business. What are you talking to me about?" Chang Tianwen glanced at him, as if he had nothing to do with it. "Ugh, I need you to help me with this. I can't handle it alone." Chapter 4966. If it was in the past, even if Ling Yuanqing wasn't angry at such a terrible result, he wouldn't be in the mood to personally welcome them. But this time was different. Although the result of the trial wasn't ideal, because of Lin Yi, the benefits that Morning Star Academy received were much greater than the path of the tyrant trial. Needless to say, just the fact that Morning Star Academy was able to sit at the main table at the celebration banquet was already a huge credit to Lin Yi. This meant that Morning Star Academy would receive the support of Zhuang Yifan, and becoming a super golden class academy was only a matter of time. This was something that Ling Yuanqing hadn't been able to do for decades. Other than that, the news of Lin Yi asking Zhuang Yifan to speak up for the two academies had spread as well. While it was inevitable that there would be all sorts of discussions within the academies, it was still a great achievement no matter what. Anyone with foresight could see that this was a win-win situation for both academies, and it was a rare occasion for both academies. Master Lin, you've worked hard this time. On behalf of everyone, I thank you for everything you've done for Morning Star Academy. You'll always be our benefactor, Ling Yuanqing said emotionally. Dean Ling, you're too kind. I've been troubling the academy for so long. It's only right that I do something for the academy. Lin Yi said humbly. Master Lin, I have a presumptuous request. I'd like you to be the honorary dean of Morning Star Academy. Would you be willing? Ling Yuanqing suddenly suggested. This, Lin Yi, Wang Xinyan, and Huang Xiaodao looked at each other. There were quite a few people here who were related to him. It wouldn't be a bad thing to have the title of an honorary dean. He hesitated for a moment before nodding. Since Dean Ling is so kind, then it would be impolite of me to refuse. All right, I've already prepared a celebration banquet. It's to celebrate Master Lin's achievements, and also to celebrate the new honorary dean. Master Lin, please. Ling Yuanqing said immediately. Dean Ling, please. Lin Yi nodded with a smile. He could clearly see that Ling Yuanqing's attitude had become more polite this time. He felt a little helpless, but he knew that this was unavoidable. After all, even someone like Zhuang Yifan had to treat him as an equal. How could Ling Yuanqing continue to be arrogant? Otherwise, even if he didn't object, Zhuang Yifan's expression would probably be ugly. What comforted Lin Yi, however, was that the divine nun of the East Sea's attitude towards him hadn't changed at all. After all, she was a peaceful monk, and also Wang Xinyan and Huang Xiaotao's teacher. If even the divine nun of the East Sea changed her attitude, Lin Yi would really be in trouble. At the celebration banquet, other than Wang Xinyan and Huang Xiaodao, the three powerhouses of the Morning Star Academy and Qing Danzi were at the same table with Lin Yi. Li Run, as the leader of the libation, was also at the last seat. He didn't have the right, but he had done a great service, so it was a reward. After 3 rounds of drinking, Lin Yi suddenly asked Qing Danzi, who was sitting on his left, Qing Danzi, have you solved the problem you encountered with alchemy? It's solved, it's completely solved. The last few times I've refined pills, it hasn't happened again. Master, you really have a good eye. I've learned a lot, Qing Danzi said excitedly. He couldn't be blamed for being so excited. He had only followed Lin Yi's instructions and changed a small habit, and his success rate immediately increased by several times. It was equivalent to decades of hard work. Having an expert to guide you really made a difference. He was originally the chief alchemist of the academy, and now that the problem was solved, he could become one of the best among the 7th-rank alchemists. His next step was to look forward to becoming a mystic alchemist. Although there was a huge gap between a yellow-rank alchemist and a mystic alchemist, even if he reached the peak of the 7th rank, it didn't mean that he had the confidence to become a mystic alchemist. But this was the most basic prerequisite. If he couldn't even reach the peak of the 7th rank, then he couldn't even think about becoming a mystic alchemist. But now, Qing Danzi at least had the qualifications to fantasize about it. This in itself was a gratifying improvement. That's good. In the future, concentrate on practicing and simulating the alchemy fire of various elements. This is the most important basic skill to become a mystic alchemist. You can't be careless. This was Lin Yi's own experience from refining the solid earth pill a few days ago. Although he couldn't share the godly armament cauldron, he still had to teach him what he could. Yes, thank you, Master, for your teachings. This disciple will remember it. Qing Danzi was overjoyed. Although he had long believed that Lin Yi was a mystic alchemist, he never thought that he would be able to receive Lin Yi's wholehearted teachings so quickly. This really made him overjoyed. Before, Lin Yi's casual words had solved the problem that had troubled him for many years. Now his words were full of gold. It had to be said that when he desperately wanted to be Lin Yi's disciple, it seemed unbelievably impulsive to others. But now it seemed that it was absolutely a wise and far-sighted move. All right, is there an alchemist called Zheng Dongsheng in the academy? Lin Yi asked. Zheng Dongsheng? Qing Danzi was a little surprised that Lin Yi would suddenly ask about this person. But he still answered truthfully, yes, there is such a person. He is our academy's number 2 alchemist. He is also a 7th rank alchemist. It's just that he recently went out to visit his relatives, so he's not in the academy. So that's how it is. Lin Yi thought to himself. No wonder he had never seen this person before. Otherwise, if Zheng Dongsheng was really in the academy, he would have already come to pay his respects. After all, even the chief alchemist, Qing Danzi, had become his disciple, let alone a 2nd-rank alchemist like him. Master, do you have any problems? Do you want me to find someone to call him back? Qing Danzi asked. He was the chief alchemist and could be considered the boss of all the alchemists in the academy. Even Zheng Dongsheng had to listen to his orders. Although they were both 7th-rank alchemists, their alchemy abilities differed greatly. Qing Danzi was at least 3 Zheng Dongshengs, otherwise he would not have been able to sit firmly in his position as the chief alchemist. That's not necessary. I was just casually asking. Lin Yi waved his hand nonchalantly. With his current position, he could make Zheng Dongsheng suffer with just one word, but Lin Yi wasn't that domineering. First, Qin Yu's matter was related to Zheng Tianguang. As Zheng Tianguang's father, Zheng Dongsheng was at most not strict enough to discipline his son. Chapter 4967. Oh, Qing Danzi nodded thoughtfully and didn't ask any further. Qing Danzi, I'll be leaving the East Continent soon, so there's something I need to tell you, Lin Yi said. Qing Danzi wasn't surprised at all. In his eyes, even a mystic wouldn't be able to accommodate a god like Lin Yi, let alone a mere golden academy. A master like Lin Yi would have to be like the Dan god Zhongliju, a dragon that never showed its head or tail. That was the style of a master. Master, you're talking about the Hong Commerce, right? No need to worry. I'll cooperate with Shopkeeper Chai. I don't dare say much about other things, but in terms of high-grade elixirs, I can guarantee that no one in Morningstar City can beat him. Qing Danzi promised confidently. He indeed had this confidence. Even without Lin Yi's guidance, he was still the chief elixir refiner, let alone now. All right, I'll have to trouble you with this. Lin Yi smiled and continued. But that's not what I need to tell you. There's something else I need to tell you. I have a friend here called Qin Yu, and she was bullied before. She doesn't have a strong background, so I want you to take care of her. Yes, master. Qing Danzi agreed without hesitation, and after thinking for a while, he said, Then do you want me to warn Zheng Dongsheng? After all, they were both smart people, and although Lin Yi didn't say it explicitly, he could guess that the bullying of Qin Yu had something to do with Zheng Dongsheng, or else Lin Yi wouldn't have asked this question. No need. You just need to take care of her. Don't be distracted by these unnecessary things. Work hard to become a mystic refiner. Lin Yi waved his hand and added, Qin Yu is already at the early stages of profound ascension, and she won't be staying in Morningstar Academy for too long. Besides, Xian Yin and Xiao Tao will be helping her by her side. You just have to spread the news, and there shouldn't be any trouble. Yes, I understand. Qing Danzi nodded. After settling matters with Qing Danzi, Lin Yi bade farewell to the 3 Morningstar powerhouses. Ling Yuanqing and the others tried their best to persuade him to stay, but they also knew that Lin Yi had been targeted by Changming Gue. Indeed, it was not convenient for him to stay for long, so they did not insist on him staying. They only asked Lin Yi to visit the Morning Star Academy when he was free. No matter what, he was still an honorary dean. In addition, Ling Yuanqing also gave Lin Yi a great benefit. That was the quota for the Academy's disciples. According to what he said, Lin Yi, as the honorary dean, could directly recommend disciples to the Morning Star Academy. This was a huge power in the Academy. For the sake of a spot to become a disciple of the East Continent Academy, the people outside would do anything to get it. It was not like Lin Yi had not seen the fiery scene of the Morning Star Academy's disciple selection. Ling Yuanqing giving him this power meant that he could easily send people to the Morning Star Academy in the future. Of course, the number of spots that would eventually be handed over to Lin Yi would definitely be very limited. Even if it was a disciple recommended by Lin Yi, he would still have to go through the final round of evaluation by the 3 Morningstar powerhouses. It was obviously impossible for ordinary Tom, Dick, or Harry to sneak in and waste cultivation resources. However, with the relationship between Lin Yi and the 3 Morningstar powerhouses, as long as the disciple's aptitude was not too bad, the 3 Morningstar powerhouses would definitely not make things difficult for the person he personally recommended. It was basically equivalent to him making the decision himself. With regard to this, Lin Yi did not hesitate to accept it with a smile. This was equivalent to paving a ready-made stepping stone for his subordinates. Even if it was just to force his seniors to think about it in the future, he had no reason to reject it. After bidding farewell to the 3 Morningstar powerhouses, Wang Xinyan and Huang Xiaodao accompanied Lin Yi to the Hong Merchant Association. Although there was nothing special that needed to be told, Honest Chai was still one of his people after all, and he naturally had to inform him before he left. Without a doubt, Honest Chai once again expressed his loyalty. With Lin Yi's stunning display at the Morningstar auction and his cooperation with Qing Danzi, he had now completely established a foothold in Morningstar City. In the Hong Merchant Association, he had also become a true lord, and his power and status were not to be underestimated. In the past, he did not have much say, but now he had enough qualifications to wave the flag for Hongzhong. If he could groom a few more subordinates like him in the future, the day when Hongzhong, the vice president, would forcefully enter the headquarters on Middle Island was not far away. After leaving the Hong Merchant Association, Wang Xinyan and Huang Xiaodao followed Lin Yi all the way to the city gates. Lin Yi repeatedly urged them to stop before the 2 girls reluctantly stopped in their tracks. "I'm leaving now. You 2 take good care of yourselves. If there's a chance, go to the Morning Pride Academy to find Huiyuti. The 3 of you must support each other when you go to the Mystic Sea region in the future. Advance and retreat together," Lin Yi instructed. "Don't worry. We know this even without you telling us. All right, when the time comes, are we going to bring your princess Ning Xuefei along?" Wang Xinyan looked at Lin Yi with a smile that did not seem like a smile. Lin Yi rubbed his nose awkwardly. He felt a little guilty about this matter. After all, there were so many beauties who followed him without any complaints, and they never had a clear status. Now that he was engaged to Ning Xuefei, it was really too unfair to Wang Xinyan and the other girls. However, he had no other choice in that situation. He could only think of a way to make it up to them in the future. Feifei's strength is too low. She won't be able to go to the Mystic Sea region in the short term, but it's good for you guys to get to know each other first. Lin Yi blushed. "We know." Wang Xinyan and Huang Xiaodao saw his expression and couldn't help but smile at each other. "All right, you 2 can go back now. We'll meet again in the future. I'll be back," Lin Yi promised. Although leaving the East Continent this time was part of the plan, it was somewhat rushed because of Chang Mingui. However, it was foreseeable that he would definitely return to the East Continent in the future. After all, the average strength of the other Heaven Tier Islands was much lower than the East Continent. It was not easy for a mysterious Ascension Realm Master like him to quickly improve. Only the East Continent, where there were many masters, was the best place to train. Yes, you said it yourself. Don't let us wait for too long. Wang Xinyan and Huang Xiaodao wrinkled their noses at the same time, their eyes a little red. Parting was always a sad thing, and they didn't know when they'd be able to see each other again after parting this time. I won't let you guys wait for too long, I promise. Lenny nodded and said softly. He hugged Wang Xinyan and Huang Xiaodao lightly and left under the gaze of the two girls. Chapter 4968. As he was leaving Morningstar City, Lin Yi suddenly saw two familiar figures on the city wall. They were Bao Zhuoyang and Su Kashing, who had disappeared on the way. At this time, the two of them sneakily hid on top of the city wall to watch. Su Kashing was still fine, but Bao Zhuoyang was covered in injuries and looked miserable. In order to send a message to Chang Minggue, he ended up in such a miserable state. Just thinking about it made one's heart ache. This time, they finally managed to incite such a powerful expert to deal with Lin Yi, but in the end, Lin Yi was still safe and sound. This result really made the two of them feel unlucky. Bao Zhuoyang's injuries were all in vain. However, Lin Yi had already grown to such a terrifying level. Even if they were not satisfied, what could they do? Could they find someone more ruthless than Chang Minggue to deal with Lin Yi? Fortunately, Lin Yi had finally left. This was the only good news for the two of them. Otherwise, they would have to live in fear in Morningstar City. If Lin Yi found out that they were the ones behind this, the consequences would be unimaginable. The two of them were not worried for no reason. In fact, Lin Yi had already guessed that they were behind this. After all, after the two of them mysteriously disappeared from Thunder Plain Island, Chang Minggue came to kill him. Even if they didn't notice it at the time, they would be able to figure out later. Lin Yi glanced at the two of them with a faint smile and then left Morningstar City. He had no intention of dealing with these two. It was not that he couldn't, but it was not necessary. In his eyes, these two were just clowns. Not only were they not a threat to him, but they were also no threat to Wang Xinyan and the others. Morningstar Academy was almost under Lin Yi's control, not to mention a mere Bao Zhuoyang. Even his father would not be able to do anything about it. Lin Yi didn't say anything on the way, and a couple of days later, he appeared in Soaring Clouds territory. He had originally thought that it would be interesting if he met the West Mountain Almighty Being again. This was not impossible. Heretic cultivators were usually very vengeful. Since the West Mountain Almighty Being did not dare to enter Morningstar City, he might have been waiting outside. However, from the results, it seemed that Lin Yi was thinking too much. A few months had passed, and the almighty West Mountain wouldn't have been waiting outside Morningstar City for so long. After entering Soaring Cloud Academy, Lin Yi quickly attracted the attention of the surrounding disciples. Although he wasn't a disciple of Soaring Cloud Academy, after experiencing the battle with Lung Ruofan for half a month and the incident on the Path of the Giants, his reputation here was not any lower than Lung Ruofan's. Lin Yi was speechless after being criticized like a panda in broad daylight. He had no choice but to escape into the newcomer's courtyard. He could only use butterfly micro-steps to escape. But before he could speak, he's right. Fuck! Lin Yi was shocked. Without saying anything, he waved his hand, and a 5 elements 8 trigrams murderous aura shot out. A lifelike 8 trigrams flood dragon roared and wrapped around the huge ice blade above his head. In an instant, it was crushed into pieces. Even a mountain-like blade momentum was completely offset. Ruofan, don't you recognize me? Lin Yi looked at the person in the courtyard with a smile that wasn't a smile. Boss. Lung Ruofan was shocked. After seeing Lin Yi's appearance, he couldn't help but blush. He had just noticed someone rushing into the newcomer's courtyard. He thought it was someone with bad intentions, so he chose to attack without hesitation. He didn't expect that person to be Lin Yi. Ruofan, your strength has improved a lot. Your attack was so fast that even I was almost hit. Fortunately, my reaction was fast enough. Lin Yi smiled. Boss, you flatter me. My progress is really insignificant compared to yours. In just a few months, boss, you have grown to such a strong level. I heard that you can even defeat the giants of the mountain opening period. It's really a miracle. Lung Ruofan's eyes lit up. When Lin Yi was in the East Continent, Lung Ruofan basically suppressed him in all aspects. Even after fighting for half a month, Lin Yi's improvement in strength was far from obvious. In the end, he had to rely on a battle of attrition to force Lung Rufin to admit defeat. But now, Lin Yi easily blocked his attack. It was clear who was stronger and who was weaker. Oh, even you know about this? Lin Yi was stunned. It's not strange. This time, the disciples who went to participate in the Road of Giants have returned. Boss, your matter has been spread widely. Besides, even if I don't go outside, I can still hear about it from here, Lung Rufin said matter-of-factly. There are people talking about this newcomer's courtyard? Who? Lin Yi was a little surprised. It's me. Hui Yudi's voice suddenly came from inside the room. Then, two delicate figures flew over like young pigeons and threw themselves into Lin Yi's arms. Lin Yi, you're back. Ning Xuefei hugged Lin Yi and said happily, Yes, I'm back. Lin Yi stretched out his hand and rubbed her head. Then, he turned to Lung Rufin and said, I won't stay here for long. Help me find Jiang Hahai. I have something to say to him. Yes. Lung Rufin nodded and turned to go out. Young hero Lin, the spiritual tea is ready. Please come in and have a rest. Yang Qinxue stood in the distance and greeted him. All right, thank you, Miss Yang. Lin Yi nodded and walked into the room with Hui Yudi and Ning Xuefei. The three of them chatted while drinking tea. Speaking of which, Yudi, why are you here? Lin Yi asked with a little surprise. Chapter 4969. You don't have to worry too much. Although she was tortured a lot before, there shouldn't be any sequelae. The problem now is that we can't find her. I've already told the relevant people in the academy that if they find her, they will inform me as soon as possible. I believe that will happen sooner or later. Hui Yudi comforted him. Well, that's the only thing we can do for now, Lin Yi nodded. By the way, Lin Yi, how long are you going to stay here this time? Ning Xuefei asked. This? Lin Yi couldn't bear to look at the two girls. Because of Chong Mingue, he was basically running for his life this time. Logically speaking, he couldn't stay here for long, and the sooner he left, the better. Not only would he be in danger if he stayed here, he might even drag Ning Xuefei and Hui Yudi down with him. However, the two girls have been waiting for him for so long, especially Ning Xuefei. Unlike Hui Yudi, who at least had a reunion on the Path of Giants, Ning Xuefei had waited until now to see him again. It was really cruel for them to have to leave so quickly. Can you leave tomorrow morning? Ning Xuefei took Lin Yi's arm and said coquettishly. Tomorrow morning? Lin Yi was stunned. He had thought that he would stay for at least 2 or 3 days to accompany Ning Xuefei. He didn't expect that this girl would be so understanding. He couldn't help but feel warm in his heart. Okay, I'll leave tomorrow morning. Then where are you going next? Hui Yudi asked. Originally, I was going to go to your Morning Pride Academy, but since you Dai have already rushed over here, I won't make the trip. Can you help me apologize to Aunt Lu? Lin Yi smiled apologetically. She was also a considerate girl. This time, she came to Soaring Cloud Academy not because she wanted to spend more time with Ning Xuefei, but because she wanted to save time for him. Lin Yi knew that very well. Well, are you going back to the North Island next? Hui Yudi continued to ask. Before going back to the North Island, I plan to go to the Middle Island first. Lin Yi thought for a while and said. He hadn't seen Tian-chan and Sydney for a long time. Last time when he went back to the North Island, he said he would go to the Middle Island to see them, but he went to the West Island instead. This time, he could make up for it. Oh, it's a pity that it's not convenient this time. Otherwise, I'd really like to go to Zhongdao with you and meet Tian-chan and Sydney, whom you and Jingjing often talk about. Hui Yudi said with some pity. She had just successfully broken through to the profound ascension realm, so she had to properly stabilize her cultivation level. Lu Ziyu would not let her go out and run around. Yes, I think so too. What a pity. Ning Xuefei sighed as well. Hui Yudi was already half a graduate, while Ning Xuefei had just enrolled. It was even more impossible for her to run around. Don't worry, there will always be a chance in the future. Lin Yi had to smile and comfort the two women, and then said, By the way, Yudi, I've already told Xinyan and Shout Out to go with you to the Xuanjiasi area. When the Xuanjiasi area starts to recruit people, let me know. No matter whether I can come or not, at least let me know your whereabouts. Well, I got it. Hui Yudi nodded repeatedly. Oh, you're all going to the Xuanjiasi area. What about me? Ning Xuefei said with a sad face. You? Lin Yi and Hui Yudi looked at each other and smiled. Of course you'll stay here and cultivate. Even if you're the princess of the West Island, you can't go to the Xuanjiesi area before your strength reaches the profound ascension realm. Right? It's so annoying. If I knew this would happen, I would have cultivated well. I wouldn't have been left alone now. Ning Xuefei said sullenly. Lin Yi couldn't help but laugh. If you cultivated well, you wouldn't be Ning Xuefei. Among the people he knew, Ning Xuefei and Shangwan Laner had the best family background, and their talent wasn't bad. If they focused on cultivation, they would be able to achieve something great. Unfortunately, the two of them hated boring things like cultivation the most. Even the strength of the Foundation establishment realm was obtained by taking pills, let alone other things. From today on, I've decided to cultivate in seclusion. Ning Xuefei snorted angrily. Looking at Lin Yi and Hua Yudi's eyes, she thought about it and quickly changed her words. Forget it. I'll start tomorrow. After you leave, I'll start working hard. I'll definitely surprise you in the future. Really? Then you're not going to study arrays and automatic casting mechanisms? Lin Yi looked at her with a smile. Ning Xuefei choked. To her, this was much more interesting than cultivation, so she quickly changed her words again. Then I'll use half of my time to cultivate. That should be fine, right? All right, you said it yourself. If I find that you haven't made any progress the next time I come, I'll spank you. Lin Yi smiled. Ning Xuefei looked at Lin Yi's palm and blushed. She said shyly, Do you want to take off your clothes and spank me? Lin Yi had just taken a sip of tea when he spat it all over Hui Yudi's face. Even Hui Yudi choked. What was this girl thinking? Ning Xuefei could only wipe the tea off her face bitterly and said helplessly, I washed my face today. Thanks. Lin Yi didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He finally stopped teasing this girl and was about to speak his mind. At this time, Lung Ruofan suddenly shouted at the door. Boss, Jiang Hahai is here. Okay, let him in. Lin Yi nodded and turned to Hui Yudi and Ning Xuefei. You two go to the courtyard first. I have something to tell him. It's his private matter. Okay. Hui Yudi and Ning Xuefei obediently responded. After the two girls went out, Jiang Hahai immediately rushed in. He didn't care about etiquette and hurriedly cupped his hands at Lin Yi. Brother Lin, how is Qin Yu? The good news is that she went to the path of the magnate and is now an early-stage mysterious ascension master. Lin Yi said lightly. Really? Hearing this, Jiang Hahai was overjoyed and muttered in disbelief. How did Qin Yu improve so quickly? She was even weaker than me at that time. It seems like she met a famous teacher in Morningstar Academy. Then I can rest assured. That's great, that's great. Although Qin Yu had pulled far ahead of him in terms of strength, Jiang Hahai did not feel any resentment because of this lowly pride. Instead, he felt happy for Qin Yu from the bottom of his heart. In fact, strength or not was only secondary. In his heart, it was enough as long as Qin Yu lived a good life. No, she didn't meet any famous teachers. On the contrary, she didn't have any backing at all. Instead, she was bullied by others. Lin Yi poured cold water on her. Chapter 4970. That's why I'm going to tell you some bad news. I hope you can handle it. Lin Yi sighed. Seeing that Jiang Hahai was ready, he slowly said, Qin Yu was raped by a second-generation cultivator called Zhang Tianguang. Raped? Jiang Hahai almost fainted when he heard that. Lin Yi nodded and told Jiang Hahai about Qin Yu's incident from beginning to end. He did not take a subjective stance and simply narrated it as a bystander. After all, he was just an outsider. Lin Yi did not want his own perception to affect Jiang Hahai's judgment. With that, the room fell into a deathly silence. Lin Yi looked at Jiang Hahai quietly, waiting to see how the guy would react. After a long time, Jiang Hahai suddenly raised his head. His eyes were blood red, and he seemed to be in a hysterical state. He gasped for breath, and he seemed like a ferocious beast that had crawled out of hell. Lin Yi shook his head. This guy was so agitated that he was about to go crazy. However, this was not surprising. Jiang Hahai was deeply in love with Qinyu. Anyone would not be able to take it when they heard that their lover had gone through such a miserable experience. It was normal for him to have a mental breakdown. Just as Lin Yi was hesitating about whether to knock him out, Jiang Hahai suddenly spoke. His voice was not as clear as before. Instead, it was indescribably hoarse. "Thank you, Brother Lin, for everything you did for Qinyu. I will never be able to repay you in this lifetime. You're too kind." Lin Yi looked at him worriedly. He sounded calm, but the calmer he was at a time like this, the more abnormal it was. It would have been better if he'd let it all out, but who knew what kind of scary things were brewing behind this abnormal calmness? Bang! 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 Jiang Hahai kowtowed 3 times to Lin Yi, then suddenly stood up and walked out of the room. Seeing that the situation was not good, Lin Yi quickly stopped him. "What are you going to do?" From Lin Yi's point of view, there was only one outcome for such a state of madness under the cover of calmness, and that was to kill. However, it was unknown whether the other party was going to kill Zheng Tianguang or Qinyu. Killing Zheng Tianguang was easy to understand, as he was the main culprit of the tragedy. Killing Qinyu was also easy to understand, as she had given up on herself. To most men, this was something unforgivable. "I want to tear those who bullied Qinyu to shreds, one by one." Jiang Hahai gritted his teeth, but he did not completely lose his mind. He turned to look at Lin Yi and said, "Big brother Lin, you don't have to worry about me. I'm not stupid enough to kill people now. At least I have to wait until I break through to the profound ascension realm. Otherwise, it won't be revenge, but death." Lin Yi looked at him deeply. Whether it was in terms of strength or aptitude, there was nothing outstanding about this man. However, at this moment, he suddenly felt that this man was not an ordinary person. Under great stimulation, many people would have a mental breakdown, but there were also a few who would be reborn and amaze the world with a single brilliant feat. Jiang Zhanghai might be one of the rare few in the latter category. "Then how are you going to treat Qinyu?" Lin Yi asked curiously. Although he did not want to interfere in the private matters between these two, he would still feel uneasy if it caused a tragedy. Jiang Hahai glanced at Lin Yi and turned to leave, leaving behind a sentence. "No matter what happened to her in the past, it was not her fault. It was my incompetence. As long as her heart does not change, I will never let her down." One infatuated man. Lin Yi looked at Jiang Hahai's back and smacked his lips. He had imagined many possible situations, and Jiang Hahai's reaction was undoubtedly the one that gave him the highest evaluation. It seemed that if there was a chance in the future, he could also train this person well. What happened to this Jiang Zhanghai? He used to look honest, but why is he so angry today? He looks like he wants to eat someone. Ning Xuefei ran in with Huiyuti. "Yeah, could it be that something happened to Qinyu?" Huiyuti asked curiously. Although she did not know about Qinyu's tragic experience, she had seen how Lin Yi had called Qinyu over. The only thing that could make Jiang Hahai act so strangely was his fiancée, Qinyu. Yes, it is indeed Qinyu's matter. However, this is their private matter. Let's not be nosy, Lin Yi said, then said, "All right, I will be preparing to concoct pills, so I won't be accompanying you two." Concoct pills? The two girls were stunned at the same time. Ning Xuefei could not help but pout. "You can concoct pills anytime, but do you have to do it now? You were supposed to leave tomorrow morning." "It is precisely because I am leaving tomorrow morning that I have to concoct pills now. Otherwise, it will be too late." Lin Yi laughed meaningfully. "Will be too late?" Ning Xuefei was confused. "You will know when the time comes." "Oh right, Fei Fei, come to my room tonight. I have something to do," Lin Yi instructed. "Tonight? I will go to your room alone?" Ning Xuefei suddenly blushed. She turned her head and tugged at the corner of Huiyuti's clothes. She said weakly, Then let sisterhood come with you. It seems that there is something good waiting for you, Fei Fei. I will not accompany you. This journey of becoming a giant has been tormenting me for so long. I still need to have a good sleep to recuperate. Hui Yudi and Lin Yi looked at each other and smiled. She had already guessed what Lin Yi was going to do. Ning Xuefei was confused. She looked at Lin Yi and then looked at Hui Yudi. She pouted and said, "What are you going to do? Why are you being so mysterious? You will know when the time comes." Hui Yudi said as she pulled Ning Xuefei out, leaving the room for Lin Yi. Lin Yi smiled. He immediately took out the divine armament cauldron and began to refine pills. This time, he was not going to refine a profound first-level pill like the Earth-solid pill. Instead, he was going to refine a kind of pill that he was already familiar with. The sky turned dark in the blink of an eye. In order not to disturb Lin Yi, Hui Yudi and Ning Xuefei stayed outside in the courtyard during the day. Even at night, they huddled together in the next room. After hesitating for a long time, Ning Xuefei finally came to Lin Yi's room under Hui Yudi's incitement. I'm here." Ning Xuefei tiptoed in. Her face was red, and she had a guilty look on her face. Puff! Lin Yi was dumbfounded when he saw her dress at the moment. He didn't know what this girl was thinking. At this time, she was only wearing a thin undershirt. It was half-transparent and faintly discernible. She was like a tempting little demon. "Why are you dressed like this?" Lin Yi looked at her strangely. Chapter 4971. That? Which one? Lin Yi was stunned. "That's it. We are engaged. Although it's a bit unreasonable to do this. After all, we don't know when we will meet again. It's necessary to keep a seed." Ning Xuefei's voice became softer and softer, and in the end, it was almost inaudible. Keep a seed. Fortunately, Lin Yi didn't drink any tea this time, or he'd have sprayed tea all over her face again. This girl's mind was really out of this world. He only asked her to come over at night. How could she think of something like this? Isn't it? Ning Xuefei was a little surprised. Ugh, Fei Fei, you misunderstood. I really didn't ask you to come this time for this. We're not going to be separated forever. It's just a temporary separation. Why do you want to keep a seed for no reason? Lin Yi was dumbfounded. Ning Xuefei's blushing cheeks became even redder. She quickly covered her chest with her hands and said hurriedly, "Then I will go change clothes." Ning Xuefei turned around and left. Lin Yi quickly stopped her. "Come back. Since you're already here, why change clothes? Anyway, you have to take them off." "Take them off?" Ning Xuefei couldn't help but be surprised. She looked at Lin Yi in a daze and said, "Didn't you say that you don't want to keep a seed?" "I didn't say that, but the next thing needs you to take off your clothes. Hurry up. We don't have much time." Lin Yi reached out and gestured. "Oh." Although Ning Xuefei was confused, she still did it obediently. Although she was shy, it was not the first time she acted like this in front of Lin Yi. Thinking back to the first time they met on the far north island, it was the same situation. Ning Xuefei then asked charmingly, "Then, do you also want to take it off? I'm just helping you improve your strength, not for myself. Why do I have to take off my clothes?" Lin Yi said with a smile. "Improve your strength? So that's why you call me here." Ning Xuefei finally reacted. She had already heard about this hundreds of times from Shangwan Laner. At that time, she was envious of the other party's ability to quickly improve her strength without cultivating. She had even talked to Lin Yi about it several times. However, Lin Yi felt that it was too much of a waste to do so. It was not a good thing in the long run, so he had never agreed to it. He didn't expect it to be brought up today. "That's right. I know that with your personality, it's impossible for you to concentrate on cultivation alone, so I can only choose this last resort," Lin Yi said helplessly. If Ning Xuefei wanted to improve even a little bit, he would definitely not help her improve her strength. After all, only the strength obtained through hard work and hard training was the most reliable. It was a pity that Ning Xuefei was the same as Shangwan Laner. Although she had patted her chest and guaranteed before, Lin Yi was sure that she would never be able to do it. This was purely her nature. Unless the two of them were forced into a desperate situation, they would never have this kind of awareness. Now, that Wang Xinyan, Huang Xiaotao, and Huiyuti were all at the early stage of profound ascension, they would definitely go to the profound sea together in the future. If Ning Shuifei's strength was not raised quickly, she would be the only one left behind. Although there was Lung Ruofin and Yang Qinxue guarding here, and Lin had nothing to worry about, he couldn't really let Lung Ruofin and Yang Qinxue guard here forever, right? With the resources of the Golden Stage Academy, it was not enough to support the cultivation of a profound ascension expert. Who knew how long it would take for Ning Shuifei to cultivate to the profound ascension stage? If Lung Ruofin and Yang Qinxue wasted so many years here for Ning Shuifei, no matter how powerful a genius was, they would still be wasted. Lin, he felt very guilty. What's more, with Ning Shuifei's mischievous personality, even if she was extremely talented, it was still unknown whether she could reach the profound ascension stage. So after thinking about it, Lin decided to raise her strength first. At that time, he could let her, Lung Ruofin, and Yang Qinxue go to the profound sea with Huiyuti and the others. Lin had nothing to worry about. As for the problem of strength, it could be made up for bit by bit in the future. With Lin Yi's means, he would always be able to think of a way. Great! Ning Shuifei immediately cheered when she heard this. Completely forgetting her current situation, Lin Yi's face turned red. She didn't even notice it herself, and said excitedly, "Then what realm can you raise my strength to? Can I directly reach the profound ascension stage? Didn't you vow to cultivate hard during the day? Why did you throw it to the back of your mind so quickly? Aren't you afraid that I'll spank you?" Lin laughed. "If you want to spank me, then spank me. Anyway, it's fine as long as you don't let me cultivate. I could do a lot of things with so much time saved." Ning Shuifei said in a silly voice. Lin, he was speechless. If it wasn't for the fact that he didn't have much time, he might not have been able to control himself in this kind of situation. He could only say, "It's impossible to directly reach the profound ascension stage, but I can first raise you to the great perfection of the nascent soul stage, and then create an artificial thunder tribulation for you to help you fuse with the spirit root to reach the profound ascension stage. Here, these are the 2 7th-grade great recovery pills that I just refined. Do you still have the Thunder Shin pill that I gave you last time?" Ning Shuifei took the 2 pills in a daze, both of which were of the best quality. She said strangely, "Yes, don't you only need the Thunder Shin pill to reach the profound ascension stage? Why do you still need the 7th-grade great recovery pill?" The Thunder Shin pill can only be used to buffer the thunder tribulation. For people like you Dai and the others who cultivate normally, it is indeed enough to have 1 Thunder Shin pill. Even if they fail to reach the profound ascension stage, they can still ensure their lives. But you are different. Your strength was raised by external forces, and your foundation is not enough. I'm afraid that there will be an accident. These 2 great recovery pills may come in handy." Lin explained. In fact, if it was only the 7th-grade great recovery pill, he didn't need to refine it on the spot. But he was afraid of accidents. Only by refining the best quality pills himself could he be at ease. After all, this was not a trivial matter, and he must ensure that nothing goes wrong. If there was no Chong Mingguei, who was eyeing him covetously, Lin could have raised Ning Shuifei's strength to the peak of nascent soul stage and let her consolidate for a few months before attempting to reach the profound ascension stage. Unfortunately, the situation was special, and he could only take a little risk. Of course, this was also because of Ning Shuifei's extraordinary aptitude. If she only had an average aptitude, Lin would never do this, because after raising her strength to the peak of nascent soul stage, she would immediately attempt to reach the profound ascension stage. The difficulty of this was absolutely not a small matter, and only the true geniuses could succeed. Lin believed that Ning Shuifei was such a genius, but this genius was more mischievous and never liked to cultivate. Chapter 4972. Next was the real challenge. Lin Yi gave Ning Shuifei only 2 hours to familiarize herself with the realm of Yuanying realm, and it couldn't be more than that. Since she couldn't make steady progress step by step, she could only take advantage of the strong inertia of the improvement of strength to break through to Xiansheng. If she waited too long in the middle, the rhythm of rapid upgrading would be cold, which would increase the difficulty of Ning Shuifei. So 2 hours was the limit. After 2 hours, Ning Shuifei suddenly opened her eyes, and there was an unprecedented brilliance in her eyes, which made Lin Yi's eyes brighten. This girl's aptitude was really against the natural order. In just 2 hours, she had already familiarized herself with the new realm of Yuanying realm. Even if it was not completely stable in the eyes of ordinary people, it was already a great move against the natural order. Let's go. Find a secluded place to break through to Xiansheng. Lin Yi was relieved. Ning Shuifei's state of the moment gave him a little more confidence, not to mention that she had the Thunder Xian pill and the 7th grade recover pill of the best quality. Even if Ning Shuifei failed this time, she would not be in danger, so he didn't need to worry too much. The two of them arrived at the outskirts and waited for Ning Shuifei to signal that they were ready. Without hesitation, Lin Yi unleashed the 1,000 lightning explosions. The power of this 1,000 lightning explosions was several times stronger than normal lightning tribulations. It was enough for Ning Shuifei to use it to merge with her spirit root. Of course, it didn't matter if it wasn't enough. With Lin Yi here, he could add another lightning strike at any time. As for the more powerful Thunder Burial, even a master in the early stage of mountain opening like Zhang Zili couldn't resist it. With Ning Shuifei's strength, even if she took the Thunder Xian pill, it would be useless, and she would be struck into ashes. Lin Yi didn't dare to take this risk. Looking at Ning Shuifei, who was immersed in the dark blue thunder pillar, seeing that she was still calm at the moment, Lin Yi was completely relieved. Although this girl usually played tricks and refused to cultivate, at this time, she still had the demeanor of a big family. She deserved to be the daughter of Ning Shangling, the master of West Island. Her talent and demeanor were deeply rooted in her bones. A mother knows her daughter best. If not, how could Ning Shangling insist on letting her be the successor of West Island? After all, it was not a good thing for a weak person to climb to such a high position. Ning Shangling was not the kind of person who would bet on the fate of West Island with her daughter. Since she insisted on doing this, it meant that Ning Shuifei did have the potential, the extraordinary potential to grow up to be the master of West Island. For a person who had the potential to grow into the master of the West Island, things like breaking through to the profound ascension realm were just a piece of cake for her. Just like Ning Shuifei's current performance, it was as if nothing had happened. This girl's talent is really scary. It's a pity. Lin Yi couldn't help but shake his head. With Ning Shuifei's talent and background, if she was willing to train hard, she would have already become a profound ascension stage master. There would be no need for him to do this. At dawn the next day, when Lin Yi brought a completely new Ning Shuifei to the newcomer's courtyard, Hui Yudi, Lung Rufeng, and Yang Qianxue were already waiting at the door with their heads raised in anticipation. In addition, Ning Shuifei's master, Chun Xingma, had also come. How is this possible? Feeling Ning Shuifei's powerful aura, Hui Yudi was not surprised at all, but Lung Rufeng and Yang Qianxue's eyes almost popped out. She was clearly still in the gold core stage yesterday. How did she become the early stage of the profound ascending stage overnight? Is this world crazy? Even Chun Xingma, who had always been gentle and intellectual, couldn't help but cover her mouth with her hand at this time and looked at Ning Shuifei blankly, not knowing what to say. It's just a little trick. I hope everyone can help me keep it a secret. Lin Yi cupped his hands to everyone. This is a little trick? Lung Rufeng almost bit his tongue off and said with a strange face, Boss, even if you're modest, there should be a limit. If this is all a little trick, then what is the point of us people cultivating? We might as well go back to our hometown to farm. He and Lin Yi didn't get to know each other without fighting. Before this, although he felt that Lin Yi was powerful, He never thought that he would be worse than Lin Yi, but Lin Yi's move completely subverted his worldview and outlook on life. When he thought of those stupid ideas before, he wanted to find a hole to hide in. There was only one thought in his mind now. His boss was really a god. Yes, your method is really incredible. It could be called heaven-defying. Chen Xingma also sighed, looked at Ning Xuefei, and said with a bitter smile, "It seems that Master has nothing to teach you in the future." "How can that be? Fei Fei still has a lot of things to learn from Master, especially Array Master. You can't hide it." Ning Xuefei hugged Chen Xingma intimately. In the past, she used to allocate more than half of the time to cultivate, but now it was good. Before going to the Xuanjia Sea, she only needed to follow Chen Xingma to concentrate on learning Array, which was exactly what she wanted. "That's good. Array has many uses. Fei Fei, it's not a bad thing for you to understand more. It will come in handy in the future." Chen Xingma nodded. Although she was not a formation master, she had some experience in this aspect. At least, it would not be a problem for her to guide Ning Xuefei. As for the future, if Ning Xuefei wanted to go further, with her identity as the Princess of West Island, she could totally find a better formation master to teach her. She could be considered as laying the foundation for Ning Xuefei. "All right, I've done what I need to do here. Let's part ways here. We'll meet again in the future." Lin Yi said, "Then you have to take care of yourself. When the Xuanjia Academy starts recruiting, you must rush over." Ning Xuefei and Hui Yudi looked at each other and said, "I will try my best. Don't worry. I will definitely come and find you." Lin Yi nodded, gently hugged Hui Yudi and Ning Xuefei, cupped his hands towards the crowd, turned around and left. Along the way out of the gate of Soaring Cloud Academy, Lin Yi was not surprised, once again attracted the attention of the crowd, but the focus of the crowd was not only him. The surrounding people were clearly talking about the strange phenomenon last night. After all, the Thousand Thunder explosion was a huge movement. It was impossible to not be noticed at all. Lin Yi secretly shivered. This was not a good thing. If Chang Minggu chased him nearby, it would be very easy for him to find his trace. As expected, it was better to leave as soon as possible. Using the butterfly subtle steps to leave the boundary of Soaring Cloud City, Lin Yi went straight to the largest yellow rank port in the East Continent. After all, he did not have a flying spirit beast with him. It was not easy to go to the Middle Island. He could only take a boat. However, if he wanted to go from the East Continent to the Middle Island, ordinary boats obviously would not work. Only warships and treasure ships could cross the vast sea, but these warships and treasure ships were the strategic resources of the various forces. Under normal circumstances, how could they let outsiders ride on them? Chapter 4973. Okuda Ba had said before that if he didn't go out to sea, he would usually be stationed at the Golden Port. "Hero Lin, I didn't expect you to become a mysterious ascendant early-stage master in just a few months. Congratulations." Okuda Ba was stunned when he saw Lin Yi. The last time he saw Lin Yi, he was only at the middle stage of nascent soul. This improvement was not just huge, it was like flying. He had never seen the world before. If he knew that Ning Xuefei went from Golden Core stage to Mysterious Ascendant stage overnight, his reaction would be the same as Lung Ruofan's, and his eyes would pop out. Hee, it's rare to come to the East Continent. If my strength didn't improve at all, how can I go back and meet people? Lin Yi couldn't help but smile. That's too exaggerated. I've been in the East Continent for so many years, but I've never heard of anyone improving as fast as you. Young Hero Lin is indeed extraordinary. Okuda Ba sighed, then asked, "Young Hero Lin, are you preparing to go out to sea?" "Yes, I plan to go to Middle Island. I don't have any connections here, so after thinking about it, I can only ask the captain for help." Lin Yi nodded. "What do you mean help?" "Hero Lin, did you forget that you are the honorary vice captain of this ship? We are all on the same side. How can I help you?" Okuda Ba pretended to be dissatisfied. I said the wrong thing. Captain, please don't blame me." Lin Yi shook his head and laughed. Okuda Ba was also a wonderful person. Not only was he capable, but he also changed his attitude quickly. However, He was very enthusiastic about those who caught his eye. As long as they were used to his style, it was not difficult to get along with them. That's right. Okuda-ba smiled and patted Lin Yi's shoulder. I'll get someone to arrange it, but it'll take some time to prepare. After all, such a big warship can't go there empty-handed. There's so many brothers who have to eat. It's not realistic for them to go to Middle Island alone for you. I hope you can understand this. Of course. He nodded his head. The resources consumed by an ancient warship for a trip to the sea was an astronomical figure. Even if Okuda-ba valued him, it was impossible for him to lose so much money. He would definitely take the opportunity to make some profits. That's good. Young hero Lin is indeed reasonable. I'll get someone to hang up Nakajima's signboard. I believe that there will be a merchant association looking for you soon. It won't take long. Okuda-ba smiled. Under normal circumstances, an ancient warship of his size would not do such business. Usually, he would deal with the big shots of the various Heaven Stage Islands and then do business with the various forces. Just like last time, when he carried the disciples of Morning Pride Academy and Soaring Cloud Academy, he would rarely run errands for the various chambers of commerce. But this time, the situation was special. Their main purpose was to send Lin Yi to Middle Island, and it was reasonable to get some extra money from the Chamber of Commerce as a subsidy. Ancient warships had always been very popular in the eyes of the big Chamber of Commerce because they were much faster and safer than ordinary treasure ships. So as long as he hung up the signboard, he believed that it wouldn't take long to attract enough business. Although he wanted to leave the East Continent as soon as possible, this kind of waiting was unavoidable. He could only stay on the warship patiently. After hovering like this for a few days, the warship was filled with a large amount of resources from the various chambers of commerce. Finally, the warship sounded. He stood on the deck and looked at the busy Golden Port. He couldn't help but sigh. Although this trip to the East Continent wasn't long, only a few months, but the things he experienced were full of twists and turns, and all of them left a deep impression on him. While he was sighing, suddenly, Lin Yi's eyelids twitched. There was a sudden gust of wind above the Golden Port. A man and a condor were faintly discernible in the clouds. Huh? Isn't that the ghost of death? What is he doing here? Okuda-ba's voice suddenly sounded. He had always been used to dealing with big shots. Chong Ming-gui was a famous person in the Golden Sea, so he naturally knew him. He's here to kill me. He smiled faintly. Really? Young hero Lin, when did you offend this guy? Okuda-ba was shocked. I beat up his wife and son on the road to becoming a tycoon. Naturally, he hates me to the core. If it wasn't for him, I wouldn't have left the East Continent in such a hurry. He smiled bitterly. There's such a thing? I remember that his wife, Zhang Zili, is an early-stage mountain opening expert. You can even beat her? Okuda-ba was shocked again. That's not a good thing. Otherwise, why would this guy chase me all the way here? He shook his head with a bitter smile. He'd underestimated Chong Ming-gui's determination to kill him. He'd been injured quite badly last time, but he'd come back so quickly, chasing him all the way to the Golden Dock. It was truly unexpected. Don't worry. Since he's on my ship, it's useless even if he chased me all the way here. You just stand here and watch. Let's see if he dares to take a step closer. Okuda-ba chuckled. It seemed like he had no intention of giving Chong Ming-gui any face. He was stunned. He really didn't expect Okuda-ba to be so loyal. This isn't just for you. Speaking of which, I have a little history with this guy. When I went to find his wife to refine pills, this guy actually wanted to poke his nose into my warship. He's really too much. This time, it's a good chance to break his spirit. Okuda-ba sneered. Thank you, Captain. I can't thank you enough. He cupped his hands gratefully. If Okuda-ba didn't protect him today, the scene in Nanzhou's sea would have happened again. The only difference was that he was being chased by Shishan Elder, but this time, it was Chong Ming-gui. As the two were talking, Chong Ming-gui had also noticed Lin Yi's silhouette. After all, he was standing on the deck in broad daylight. If he couldn't see him with his spiritual sense as a late-phase mountain master, then that meant he was a fake. He's here. Chong Mingue was overjoyed. After sending off his brother Chong Tianwen, he went back to help Zhang Zili and Chong Lading settle down. These two were now in a vegetative state, and unless he could find a doctor like Zhang Liju to save them, it would be hard for them to wake up. This naturally made Chong Mingue grit his teeth. In his rage, he didn't care about his injuries and chased Lin Yi all the way to Morningstar Academy. However, he didn't dare to go there directly and could only ask around for help. In the end, he learned that Lin Yi had gone to Soaring Cloud Academy. Chapter 4974. Chong Mingue was about to attack without a word, but when he saw where Lin Yi was, especially Okuda Ba, who was standing beside Lin Yi, his expression changed. In terms of strength, he did not think much of Okuda Ba, but the problem was that Okuda Ba was not an ordinary mountain opening expert. He was the captain of the ship. If Lin Yi was standing on an ordinary ship, Chong Mingue would have attacked without hesitation, just like he did on Thunderous Plains Island. Ordinary ships would not be able to withstand his full attack unless their defensive formations were activated to the maximum. But this was an ancient warship. Not only was the defensive formation much more powerful than the treasured ship, but the most important thing was that this thing was equipped with an extremely powerful offensive formation. Not to mention Chong Mingue, a late-stage mountain opening expert. Even his clan brother Chong Tianwen, a late-stage earth opening expert, wouldn't dare to challenge such a terrifying ultimate weapon by himself. Not to mention other things, just the Starfall formation alone was enough to make people tremble with fear. Chong Mingue did not even dare to give chase as he watched the warship swagger away. What if Okuda Ba used the Starfall formation to attack him after he chased him to the sea? At that time, not even his bones would be left. Okuda Ba was an extremely daring person, and they had a grudge against each other. It was not impossible for him to do such a thing. He had already caught up to Lin Yi, but he could only watch helplessly as Lin Yi escaped. Chong Mingue was about to go crazy with anger. But as angry as he was, Chong Mingue was helpless in this situation. He could not even vent his anger on the people around Lin Yi. After all, he was only in the late mountain opening stage, not the late earth opening stage like Chong Tianwen. If he dared to go to a Morning Star or Morning Prodigy to kill people and cause trouble, there would only be one outcome: death. Lin Yi could not help but laugh as he watched Chong Mingue stiffen above the golden port. This guy was not stupid to be able to maintain his rationality under such circumstances. It's a pity that this guy didn't take the bait. Okuda Ba slapped his thigh. You really want to kill him? Lin Yi was surprised. He thought that Oba Okuda was just joking. He didn't expect that Oba Okuda really had such intentions. Of course. Ever since I saw you controlling the Starfall array, I've been studying it. I feel like I've improved a lot, so I decided to make fun of this guy. Who knew he would be so terrified? What a disappointment, Okuda Ba said with a displeased expression. Aren't you afraid of the repercussions of killing him? He has a clan brother called Chong Tianwen, who is a late-stage Earth opening realm expert. Lin Yi could only remind him. What's the big deal about the late stage of Earth creation? Could it be that the sea dragon we encountered last time was inferior to him? Ba Okuda's face was full of disdain, and he said with a yearning expression, compared to the true super existences in the endless sea, these people are not even worth a fart. I have an ancient battleship, and I can even travel the endless sea. Why would I be afraid of them? If he dares to come, I dare to kill him. Lin Yi was suddenly speechless. This guy was indeed a dangerous person. When they first met, he didn't hesitate to throw him, the prince consort of West Island, into the sea to feed the sea beasts. He didn't take the dignified West Island seriously at all. Now, his attitude was even more vivid. A person who could travel the sea was really not simple. Although the route from Dongzhou to Middle Island was much shorter than that from West Island, it was still a dangerous journey. However, since it was an ultimate weapon like the ancient battleship, the so-called danger was not worth mentioning. Such a huge ship could not only fight against natural disasters, but also deter the powerful sea beasts that were ready to make trouble in the sea. Unless the last situation occurred, the ancient battleship was almost invincible in the vast sea. How many sea dragons were there in the world, and how high was the probability of encountering one? Ba-Okuda had traveled the sea for 300 years, and he had only seen the so-called god of the sea once. The probability was lower than winning the lottery in the secular world. As for being targeted by sea dragons twice in a row, this kind of situation did not exist at all. It was a peaceful journey. When the huge and spectacular ancient battleship docked in Middle Island, the dock suddenly caused a commotion. Unlike treasure ships, the ultimate weapon, like the ancient battleship, had always existed in Dongzhou. Unless the Dongzhou delegation came to visit, it was usually not seen in a place like Middle Island. "Captain, thank you so much for this time." Lin stood on the deck and said goodbye to Ba-Okuda. "Don't mention it. We are on the same side. Don't mention it." Ba-Okuda looked at Lin with some dissatisfaction, and then asked, "By the way, how long are you going to stay in Middle Island this time? Do you want me to wait for you?" "Anyway, I have nothing important to do recently, and I could go to North Island on the way." "There's no need for that. I'll be staying in Middle Island for a while, and it's not like the distant East Continent. It's very convenient to go from Middle Island to North Island." "Captain, you don't have to wait for me." Lin smiled. There were indeed many ways for him to go back to North Island from Middle Island. Whether it was the will of heaven or the Hong Chamber of Commerce, he could arrange it. However, East Continent was different. It was very difficult to go from East Continent to any other Heaven Stage island. Without enough connections, ordinary people could only look at the ocean and sigh. Lin was lucky to have met Ba-Okuda this time. Otherwise, he would have to go through a lot of trouble. "I see. Since you said so, I won't try to please you. I'll get someone to hang a sign of East Continent, and I'll go back to East Continent in 2 days, lest the leaders of Middle Island feel uneasy and think that I have some ulterior motives towards Middle Island." Ba-Okuda laughed. Lin couldn't help but smile. Ba-Okuda wasn't just joking. Normally, when a sensitive ultimate weapon like an ancient warship appeared, the higher-ups would definitely be notified in advance to avoid unnecessary tension and conflict. However, this was a last-minute idea, and he didn't bring his diplomatic group for an official meeting. Naturally, Ba-Okuda didn't inform them in advance. Under such circumstances, it was good enough that they could reach the shore safely. If they stayed longer, the higher-ups of Middle Island might not be able to eat and sleep well. Although an ancient battleship could not destroy the entire Middle Island, if it were to launch a sudden attack, the vitality of Middle Island would definitely be greatly damaged. The most troublesome thing was that there was no one in Middle Island who could compete with such an ultimate weapon, unless those old monsters who lived in seclusion in the Island Master Pavilion were alarmed. "Captain, let's part ways here. See you again." Lin said goodbye with cupped hands. Chapter 4975. "Okay, I won't stand on ceremony with you, Captain." Lin nodded with a smile and was then escorted off the battleship by Okuda. Looking at the scene at Middle Island's pier, Lin could not help but sigh. The last time he came to Middle Island, his knowledge was not as vast as it was now. At that time, he naively thought that Middle Island was the supreme land and the center of the 5 heavenly islands. However, now it seemed that although Middle Island was the center, it was only the center in terms of geographical location. Its strength and status might not be much higher than that of North Island and West Island. Compared to the unpredictable East Continent and the South Continent with the spirit beasts, Middle Island was still far behind. To put it bluntly, the Middle Island was only treated as the headquarters by many chambers of commerce because of its excellent geographical location. It wasn't because of how powerful the people there were. Only the Eastern Continent, which was filled with experts, could truly represent the peak of the Heaven Stage Island. But then again, although Middle Island's strength was far inferior to the East Continent, it was still the headquarters of the major chambers of commerce. It was also the transportation hub that connected the 4 heavenly islands of the North, South, East, and West. In terms of prosperity, It was not inferior to the main cities of the academies in the East Continent. Walking through the commercial district of Middle Island, Lin Yi unknowingly arrived at the market street. He was worried about Tian Chan and Sydney, so Tian Pavilion was naturally his first stop. As the owner of the Heavenly Elixir Pavilion, Lin Yi felt a little guilty at the moment. It had been more than 2 years since he left last time, and he hadn't come back even once in such a long time. He was really thorough in leaving the responsibility to others. If it weren't for his own people like Tian Chan and Shui Li, the entire Heavenly Elixir Pavilion might have changed hands a long time ago. As a hands-off manager, Lin Yi was relaxed, but Tian Chan and Sydney suffered. Although they had the support of people like the Will of Heaven, they were women after all. It was not easy for them to establish a foothold in Middle Island. Moreover, Lin Yi disappeared from time to time, causing the supply of elixirs to be unable to keep up. The two of them were troubled because of this. It could be said that Tian Chan and Sydney had made great contributions to Tian Pavilion. In contrast, Lin Yi did not do much for them. If he did not feel guilty, he could only be said to be too heartless and irresponsible. Fortunately, they finally returned to Middle Island this time. Lin Yi could more or less make up for it. In fact, for the two women, as long as he appeared, it was a big surprise. However, before Lin Yi walked to the front, he saw from a distance that the entrance of Tian Pavilion was bustling with a large circle of people. Lin Yi was suddenly stunned. After such a long time, Tian Pavilion was still so crowded. When Tian Pavilion first opened, because there were all kinds of elixirs of the best quality, the business was extremely hot, just like the scene in front of him. However, even at that time, it did not last long. After a few days, the scene was not so hot anymore. Could it be that Tian Chan and Ning Shuifei were good at managing, and after more than 2 years of hard work, they had completely established the reputation of Tian Pavilion? But it should not be so popular, right? Lin Yi could not help but feel a little strange. Although Tian Chan could also refine elixirs, she could basically only provide elixirs of high quality. As for the really popular elixirs of the best quality, he still needed to provide them. However, even if he regularly delivered elixirs to Heavenly Dan Pavilion, due to the fact that he had to travel a lot of times, he could not guarantee the quality of the elixirs. Under normal circumstances, he would only sell a limited amount of elixirs. It was already good enough for Tian Chan and Shui Li to retain their popularity, but it was impossible for them to sell so well. After all, if so many people could buy the elixirs that Lin Yi delivered regularly would not last for more than a few days. It was not desirable to have a flash in the pan, and a steady stream was the king's way. Once the supply of the best elixirs was cut off, the loss could not be made up by the hot sales in 1 or 2 days. At that time, the reputation of the entire Tian Pavilion would be damaged. There must be something going on here. Lin Yi suppressed the curiosity in his heart and immediately went over quietly. Sure enough, this scene was not because the business of Tian Pavilion was booming, but because there was a villain playing tricks. Everyone don't miss it. Our medicine sect has invited a senior alchemist from the East Continent, and he can refine 6 great elixirs on the spot. Everyone, if you're interested, hurry up and take a look. If you are late, you won't be able to line up. The owner of the voice was a familiar face. It was the deputy manager of the medicine sect, Diao Huanshan. Seeing this, Lin Yi frowned slightly. When the Tian Pavilion had just opened for business, this Jiao Huanshan had come to make trouble. But at that time, the Will of Heaven was present and dealt with him casually. He did not expect this clown to jump out again today. Was he not afraid of attracting the Will of Heaven again? Although he felt strange, Lin Yi did not show up directly. With his current vision, he naturally looked down on such a small character, but this matter was related to the reputation of Tian Pavilion. Before the matter was clarified, he was not ready to act rashly. Medicine sect? Isn't this Tian Pavilion? A new onlooker in the crowd asked in a low voice. My dear friend, where are you from? Medicine sect and Tian Pavilion are mortal enemies. Don't you know this? A busybody next to him curled his lips and said, That's right. Because of the big gimmick of the highest grade elixir, Tiandan Pavilion has stolen a lot of business from the medicine sect in the past 2 years. Now, this deputy manager of a medicine sect is obviously going to steal back the source of customers. TSK. Even a 6th grade elixir could be refined on the spot. That senior alchemist from the East Continent is amazing. Maybe he is the legendary 7th grade alchemist. After all, an ordinary 6th grade alchemist would not dare to do this. Another onlooker explained in admiration. This time, Tiandan Pavilion is really going to be defeated, although it has all kinds of highest grade elixir. After all, the grade is not high. At most, it is only 5th grade. Even if the 6th grade elixir is not of the highest quality, it is still much more popular than Tiandan Pavilion. What's more, after a certain level, everyone has to consider the 6th grade elixir. Those 4th grade and 5th grade elixir are useless no matter how good the quality is. The onlookers sighed. In the end, it is still because of the lack of foundation. Tiandan Pavilion has only been established for 2 years, while Medicine Sect has been around for hundreds of years. They can easily invite a senior alchemist from the East Continent to hold the fort. What does Tiandan Pavilion have? Someone said disdainfully. Chapter 4976. More and more people were attracted over, but Tian-chan and Sydney could only stand in front of their own doors, helpless against the scene in front of them. Besides, Wei Shinjin had also rushed over after hearing the news, but he also looked helpless. Although Jiao Huanshan was very annoying, he didn't do anything to harm Tiandan Pavilion. He was only blocking the door and promoting Medicine Sect. Under these circumstances, they really couldn't do anything to him. Tian-chan and the other two could only stare. Even if they were angry, they could only swallow this grievance. Besides, in terms of strength and background, Tiandan Pavilion really wasn't a match for Medicine Sect. There was really nothing they could do. Tian-chan and Sydney looked at each other and shook their heads helplessly. Now that their biggest support in Middle Island had left, they couldn't do anything even if they complained. They could only let Jiao Huanshan, this clown, do whatever he wanted. Jiao Huanshan, don't go overboard. Don't you think you're going overboard? Wei Shinjin couldn't take it anymore. He stood up and interrupted the chattering Jiao Huanshan. Overboard? How is it overboard? I'm not stealing or robbing. I'm just standing here to say a few words of justice. How is that overboard? Jiao Huanshan sneered and glanced at Wei Shinjin. He sneered and said, I remember that Tiandan Pavilion has only been open for 2 years. Since when did it become so arrogant that people can't even say a few words at the door? You say this is a word of justice? Jiao Huanshan, what exactly is your skin made of? You're competing so openly and maliciously, using such a despicable method to steal the customers of the Heavenly Dam Pavilion. And yet you can still say that you're doing this for justice without even blushing? Wei Shinjin coldly snorted as he suppressed his anger. I'm speaking the truth. If you're talking about maliciously competing, why don't you tell me? Which of my words just now wasn't the truth? Which of my words was deliberately slandering Tiandan Pavilion? If there is, you can pick it out for me, and I will apologize on the spot. Jiao Huanshan said fearlessly. You. Wei Shinjin suddenly choked. After all, he wasn't like Jiao Huanshan, who had been in the business world for a long time. He wasn't as eloquent and nimble as the others. Moreover, Jiao Huanshan's words really didn't leave any evidence that could be used against him. He was purely promoting his medicine sect, so it was hard for people to find fault with him. In fact, Wei Shinjin also knew that it was useless to argue with a clown like him. The best way was to overwhelm him with strength. Just like the last time when Tiandan Pavilion opened, the will of heaven could send this guy flying with a casual slap. How would he dare to say anything? Unfortunately, Wei Shinjin wasn't the will of heaven. At the end of the day, he was just a disciple of the Snow Sword sect. He didn't know who was stronger than Jiao Huanshan. If they were to really fight, it was hard to say who would be sent flying. Seeing that Wei Shinjin was choked and couldn't say a word, Jiao Huanshan glanced at Tian-chan and Sydney proudly. He said disdainfully, "Brat, you're just a few small characters, and you want to fight with me? Don't you think you're too inexperienced? You can't fight with words, and you can't fight with force either. If you're so capable, call the will of heaven here and let him deal with me." As soon as he said that, the crowd was in an uproar. The will of heaven was a legendary figure that everyone in Middle Island knew. It was rare to see someone who dared to call out the will of heaven's name in public. This medicine sect's vice shopkeeper Diao was really a big shot. Wei Shenjin was so angry that he almost rolled up his sleeves and made a move. In the end, he was stopped by Tian Chan and Sydney with a look. At this time, there were no masters who could suppress them. It was hard for the three of them to gain any advantage. Instead, they might suffer a big loss. If Jiao Huanshan took this opportunity to tear down the Tiandan Pavilion, then their 2 years of hard work would be wasted. Seeing that Wei Shanjin didn't get angry, Jiao Huanshan couldn't help but feel a little disappointed. Tian Chan and the others guessed correctly. He did have the intention to make a fuss. After all, the existence of the Tiandan Pavilion was bound to steal a lot of business from the medicine sect. If he could take this opportunity to destroy the Tiandan Pavilion, then it would really be the end of it. Even if he had to pay a price for it, it would be worth it. I'm not afraid to tell you that I'm a master in the late stage of the nascent soul realm. If the will of heaven was here, then I wouldn't care. But he isn't here, so I'd like to see who can compete with me. As Jiao Huanshan spoke, he released his aura, which instantly shocked everyone around him. The crowd couldn't be blamed for having such a reaction. If it was a place like the East Continent where experts gathered, a nascent soul late stage cultivator was nothing at all. After all, any random passerby could be a profound ascension stage cultivator or even a mountain opening stage cultivator. Who would be afraid of a nascent soul late stage cultivator? But this was the Middle Island, and nascent soul stage cultivators were already rare experts here. None of them were easy to deal with. As for the more powerful, profound ascension stage cultivators, they basically didn't go out much. They might not even see one in 10 days or half a month. Just like the situation now, Jiao Huanshan, a nascent soul late-stage cultivator, was already an invincible existence. Tian Chan and Sydney couldn't help but frown, and Wei Shinjin could only choose to retreat. There was no other way. He wasn't Jiao Huanshan's opponent at all. Even if he were to rush forward in a hot-blooded manner, it would only ruin things. Seeing this, Jiao Huanshan couldn't help but laugh out loud, while Lin Yi, who was in the crowd, was a little puzzled. The will of heaven had always been a powerful presence on the Heaven Stage Island, so why didn't it seem to be working? This Jiao Huanshan actually wasn't afraid that the will of heaven would settle the score with him. What was going on? But Lin Yi didn't think too much about this. Even if Jiao Huanshan was a nascent soul late-stage cultivator, he wasn't worthy of Lin Yi's attention at all. Now, even the president of the Golden Stage Academy Alliance, Zhuang Yifan, who was in the Earth Creation late stage, had to address him as a brother and even had to be respectful when speaking to him. Academy presidents like Ling Yuanxing were even more respectful to him. With Lin Yi's current level, there really weren't many people on the Middle Island that could make him pay attention. Lin Yi didn't choose to make a move just now because he wanted to understand the specific situation first. Now that he had heard the gist of it, there was naturally no need to continue listening to the nonsense. You can get lost now. Lin Yi walked out from the crowd and didn't even look at Jiao Huanshan. He smiled at Tian Chan and the others, who were pushed so hard that they couldn't speak. "I'm back." Tian Chan and Sydney were instantly overjoyed. The two of them had been waiting for Lin Yi for 2 whole years, but in the end, they couldn't get any definite news. They didn't expect that today, at this most embarrassing time, Lin Yi would actually appear. Wei Shinjin was also overjoyed. He was so anxious just now that he didn't know what to do. Lin Yi had entrusted him to look after the Tiandan Pavilion. If this clown, Jiao Huanshan, ruined the signboard, how would he have the face to see Lin Yi in the future? You're tuning in to the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.